Glory be and mercy me. We've done it yet again. I'm going to be upfront with you guys. I have not prepared much for today. Having like deep sleeps. Deep sleeps. Like really understanding. Like when I was younger, I was like, how is it that the bears, like, they hibernate all winter? Like, they just go and they sleep all winter? How do they do that? Seems so unlikely and unreasonable. And I'm like, no. I completely understand. What's going on here? The, just like long, deep sleeps where just like hibernation mode is go, and I love it. I love it. I'm loving like waking up and just being like cozy in the bed. Yeah, it's so nice. It's so nice. It's just so nice. I gotta tell you. And I'm not gonna be able to do it for too much longer. Hey Eric, how you doing? Good to see you. Because I got to get back onto doing clips, and the clips require a bit of effort. And I've also started. This is actually really exciting for me. I found a website. Someone literally, I was like on a TikTok video, was just like, "Hey, this exists," and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And so it's a website that a person can put their novel on, and they can connect with narrators who can audition to do an audiobook for an upfront fee or for a part of the sale of the audiobook, right? And I literally started doing this just like 2 days ago. Just started doing auditions, and I like reading out loud. I do it a lot on the channel. I used to do it a lot more in my daily life. I've like read the entire Harry Potter series out loud. I've read all of this kind of stuff. Fiction novels, things like this. Mary Stewart's Arthurian trilogy, a really, really great one. And so for me, it's actually like kind of fun to see what are people making, what are people doing, like what's being produced and what's new in the world. And even the people who are rejecting me, so I'm already getting pingbacks. I've been doing it for 2 days. I'm already getting pingbacks, and some people are interested in me, some people are not. But even the people who are rejecting me are saying that I've got, like, they're giving me compliments on my way out the door, right? And they don't have to do that in this, like, impersonal sort of, like, system that we live in. They could just be like, reject and move on. But almost every single time, they're like, hey, good voice, man. Like, you're I'm going somewhere else, but, like, you got a good thing going on here. And so it's very encouraging. Who knows? I could become like I could be doing this YouTube channel while simultaneously like reading novels and all this kind of stuff. I hope I get tied to some really controversial shit. That's what I hope happens. I hope that I read a book that people are like, yeah, I can't believe, why did you, that's just I can't, and I'm literally going to be like, they paid me money to say words from my gobhole. Sorry I didn't mail it the other day. I don't know what you're talking about, Eric, honestly. And I suspect today's stream is going to be pretty low volume. I mean, it's New Year's Eve, right? Most people, you got to think. Any plans for tonight, Eric? And any plans going out? Anybody listening who's lurking? You guys got any plans going on? I know for myself, I have no plans whatsoever. Given what's going on in the world, like COVID cases are now here in Ontario are 16,000, right? 16,000. And they're just going to keep going up. Just going to keep going up with like no plan. Doug Ford is gone. Like we've even got articles starting to get published. We're in the you're on the own stage of the pandemic. Today is my maternal grandfather's birthday. Well, that's nice. That's actually really nice. Your grandfather was born on New Year's Eve. Wow, that's like a song title. My grandpa was born on New Year's Eve. Yeah, DM, good to see you, DM. Now we've lost four greats from the Mary Tyler Show this year alone. Ed Asner, Gavin McLeod, Cloris Leckman, and now Betty. So sad, rip to all of them. Well, looks like it was the Mary Tyler Moore year, you know? Having some Kahlua and eggnog. Yeah, that's a nice combo. That's good. That's good. Oh, yeah. I hope you guys all had. Let's have a reflection on 2021. What a for it's not enough for me to say just like what a dumb year, because I feel like everybody says, like, we know. For me personally, 2021 was a real it was a shift. It was a shift in how my life is, and who I am as a person, and my shift away from this capitalist mode of production and trying to get, like, I started my life as an artist, and I wanted to be in the arts, and I wanted to be involved in the arts somehow. But as I was pursuing the arts, the neoliberal system was literally slashing all art, like arts funding across Canada and province by province has been completely gutted. Like, in some places it's as bad as 80%, right? Like, so arts funding is on a significant low, and all of that is happening literally as I'm graduating from my courses. And then on top of that, not only has there been the slashing of the funding across the board, it's the shifting of medium and of media, right? The shifting away from theater, even film and television, even like traditional modes of media production, into this new kind of internet era. And the internet has changed everything for everyone. And no one knew how to interact with it, and no one knows how to do anything with it. And there's been some trailblazers now who have kind of shown the way and lit the path, and people like myself are actually following those trailblazers. I think about people like Kyle Kalinske, even someone like Vosh, right, is a trailblazer in his own right. Joe Rogan is a trailblazer in his own right, and we're all just sort of realizing now the actual potential of what the internet can give us. And so this year for me has been a real, like, attempt to go back to my artistry roots, and to accept again that, like, oh, maybe I can be the artist I always wanted to be, and maybe that is in the cards. Maybe it is possible that somehow I will find my way into living a more artistic life. We'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe I'll be narrating books. Maybe I'll be the next great narrator. The David Attenborough. Huh? Maybe that's the thing. Fun fact, all of the people who are pinging back on me to narrate are like erotica writers. So... Hey, I'm down. I'm down. People love erotica, dude. What do you guys, the video about the interview about how science are being ruined with big tech. Yeah, I mean, like, no one is going to, like, capitalists are not going to invest in actually creating inventions, because the process of creating inventions is littered with failure, right? If you don't accept from the outset that most of the time the outcome of your funding of research projects and things like this are going to result in dead ends and are going to be like a zero, like nothing's going to happen, right? If you don't accept that that's the case, and you demand, like, I need a return on this investment, that's how our system works, a return on investment, then you're never going to actually research anything. You're never actually going to get anything done. and all of your research is just going to funnel into like meaningless pursuits. Like how can we get a shinier form of hair dye? Like how can we get like a lighter Airbud, right? Like what way can we get this system to like play shiny music? You know, like really dumb shit. Like instead of like how do we cure cancer, right? Instead of like serious shit. Instead of like how do we get into the quantum dimension, right? Instead of any of this shit, we're like, we need a strawberry flavor of chapstick. Come on, that's where we're at. Happy New Year, Major. Happy New Year, Vince. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Anyone seen the Dr. Robert Malone on JRE insane interview? What made it insane? Is it I mean, it's a doctor, and Joe Rogan's an anti-vaxxer, so I assume that it's a real, like, JRE Dr. Robert Malone. I know that he's...
I'm the one that originally discovered famotidine as an agent because I was self-treating myself after I got infected with agents that we'd identified through the computer modeling.
So February of 2020, you get infected. And how bad is your case?
Bad. I thought I was going to die. You got to remember, I was up on all the latest information from China and everywhere else. I knew all about this virus. I knew, I've been watching the videos of people dropping in the street. My lungs were burning until I took famotidine, and that relieved that.
And what is famotidine?
It's otherwise known as Pepsid. So just on this tangent, since I've said it, I've got some good news to announce. First time here. Today, we believe we should have the first patient enrolled in our clinical trials of the combination of famotidine and celecoxib for treating SARS-CoV-2. This is trials being run by the company Leidos, which is one of my clients, that I've helped design. That's based on my discoveries. They're funded by Defense Threat Reduction Agency. So this is another drug combination. Now, I work with all these folks.
All right, this guy sounds like he knows his business. Like, this guy sounds like he knows his business. Like, this is actually what ultimately does make Joe Rogan an interesting figure in the discourse. Like, unlike other like right-wing shock jock radio guys, like Rogan does bring experts in. Like, and Rogan, I think we can say pretty clearly and cleanly, Rogan is on the anti-vax side of this conversation. But he's not, like, it seems like this guy's, like, not an anti-vaxxer, right? Seems like this guy knows what's up. So that's always what's given Rogan credibility, is that he'll bring on, like, anti-vax types. Like, he'll bring on those sorts of people, but he'll also bring on people who seem to know what's up. And Vince, you've actually watched this interview, so I don't want to actually talk too deeply about it. But like, and maybe you can tell me, like, is that accurate? Is it accurate that this is a guy who like actually comes in and actually schools Rogan on what is actually going on with this thing? Or is it the other way? Is it literally like, oh, it turns out he's a big anti-vax type too, and all things go crazy? But ultimately, like, the reason why I turned away from Rogan is because he started going on the trans stuff, and he didn't stick with his like the thing that always gives Rogan credibility. Like, sure, I'll platform the weirdos, and the cranks, but I'll also platform people who are in opposition to them, and so they'll talk, and there'll be something in the middle. Is always how he's thought about it. That it's not good enough to just silence these people, right? And like some of the obvious guys, like Ben Shapiro, right? Like Joe Rogan brings Ben Shapiro on his show, and Ben Shapiro's like a far right crank, right? But then he brings on Abby Martin, right? Like he's had Bernie Sanders on his show, right? This kind of stuff. And some people have critiqued Rogan by saying he's Well, he brings far more of the cranks on than he brings on the other side of the conversation. And to me, I kind of think, I've always thought, well, isn't that just a reflection of his society, right? Like, Rogan's society is fairly far right. And, like, you know, it's all well and good to say, like, well, he should have far more leftists on and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, well, do they exist? Like, really? Do they exist? There's probably far more insane nut jobs on the far right than there are just, like, even rational, normal people to talk to. Especially when it comes to, like, specific subjects. But when it came time for the trans conversation, it was pretty obvious that Rogan was just happy platforming the cranks. And, like, he's never had a trans rights activist on his show. He's never had anybody, like, credible or serious. And he would keep, like, asking questions about trans people to, like, comedians and shit. Like, people who don't know fucking shit about anything, right? And the responses were always the same, like, yeah, live and let live, man. Like, whatever, right? But, like, bring a trans person on your show. Bring a trans rights activist, like a lawyer, like someone who's in the human rights commissions. Bring them on your show. Like, but he won't. And that to me was like a big dividing point. I was like, oh, okay. Like, to me, that was very revealing of Joe Rogan as a commentator and as a person, because he is willing to sell himself out, his own narrative, right? His own narrative about why it's okay to platform literal fascists and Nazis and white supremacists is that, okay, but I counter other people on the other side, and with the hope that they meet in the middle, right? That speech defeats speech. That's always the narrative, right? That speech defeats speech. Well, but he's willing to completely put that aside when it comes to his own bigotry. And that's what it is at this point, right? It's just his own bigotry regarding trans people in the conversation. And how do we know that's true? Because he refuses to even talk to one. Like, that's pretty fucking telling. That, like, you're telling me there isn't a single well-educated, well-informed, articulate, interesting, like, activist trans person that multi-million-dollar show Joe Rogan could reach out to and get on the show to have a conversation with? Get the fuck out of here. Like, get the fuck out of here. So he discredits himself by doing that. I'm surprised to see this. I'm surprised to see that he's having like an expert when it comes to COVID on his show. Someone who's dug in. But got to maintain that credibility, right? Especially as you become a CIA spook. I shouldn't say that out loud. Like, I don't know if Rogan's a spook or not. He keeps having CIA spooks on his show, though, so. Is what is. Anyway. Enough of Joe Rogan. You guys didn't come here to hear about Joe Rogan. The great and powerful, the absolutely beautiful, Betty White, passes away. She was about to turn 100. She was I think a week out from turning 100 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, her 100th birthday was on January 17th. I don't know, I just feel like death said, you know what, man? You don't need to see 2022, Betty. You're good, right? And dying on New Year's Eve is that's classy. That's just a classy way to go. Right, New Year's Eve, she's like probably getting ready to go, like getting ready to like get something done. She probably sat down in a chair for a minute, and just like, you know, then beside her is the fellow in the cloak and the skull, and he's like, "All right, Betty, time to go." And she probably looked up and was like, "Now?" He was probably like, "Ah, no, that's sorry, that's how it's got to go." She was like, "Ah, okay." That's how I like to think it went for Betty White. Has anyone lived a more charmed life than Betty White? And I got to tell you, I've got probably my favorite Betty White quote. Why do people say grow some balls? Balls are weak and sensitive. If you want to be tough, grow a vagina. Those things can take a pounding. Betty White. And she said that right at like the height of the Me Too stuff, right? Like right when all the Me Too stuff was going on, and like women were really standing up for themselves in Hollywood and really throwing shit at some of these guys. Betty White comes out with this, and it's just like a crystalline gem, like absolutely perfect. Oh yeah. Last night's stream was taken down due to copyright Karens from YouTube? I haven't heard anything, DM. Last night's stream was taken down. I don't think so. Unless you're referring to something else. I'll take a look around, but I haven't gotten any notification or anything like that. If I go to my channel, it's still there. Is there money in narrating books and novels? Yeah, we'll see how much. I don't know how much there is. But like anything in the arts, it's usually the same kind of thing where it's like as you do it, it's like pennies and then dimes and then dollars, and then before you know it, you're making more money than is reasonable, right? Like that's how it always works in the arts. Like you look at actors, for example, right? Actors start at pennies and then move on. I do not see the December 30th stream on your channel page. How odd. Okay, I'll take a look around for that. That's news to me. Yeah, I didn't receive any notification or anything like that. I'll take a look around for it. Yeah, not that I've done like significant looking around, honestly. Like straight up, like I've been in hibernation mode. Like no lie, guys. I like finished yesterday's stream, did some recording, played a couple of video games, went to sleep, and slept until like 5 o'clock today. Like straight up. Like it's like I am a bear that is hibernating right now. It's lovely, I gotta tell you. We should all do it. Fuck this capitalist bullshit. Like fuck this capitalist bullshit. We should all go to sleep, and we should just sleep through winter. It's what we should be doing. So I haven't had the real time to shuffle around, but I did take a look at my email, and YouTube didn't send. Like when YouTube takes stuff down, they tell you. Like it's not sneaky. Like I mean YouTube is a bit sneaky, but like they're not. Yeah, so odd. I'll take a look around. It's probably nothing, honestly. Like in a lot of cases, it is nothing, right? Like maybe I put up a clip or a video of something that YouTube is copyrighted, and I just haven't responded to the email that they sent out, and they're not willing to post it until we clip out. Like, and usually it's nothing, right? But in this particular case, I've looked at my email and I don't think I saw anything from YouTube, or maybe I did and just ignored it. Anyway. Probably nothing, guys. Probably nothing. Thanks for letting me know, though. Thanks for letting me know. That's very, very kind of you. But as for narrating, yeah, like, I mean, so there's a couple of different ways it could go, right? Like, I narrate a book and then I get royalty from the book, or they'll pay an upfront fee, and depending on how much is required, like, it could be good, could be bad. I think it's going to go really, really well, because I have such a strong voice and I'm a really good reader, and I can see how there's like sometimes I audition for stuff and I can tell it's not going to be a fit. Like my favorite was a young lady had published a book called like, you know, The Cowboy's Redemption or something like that. And the whole thing was about like a cowboy getting, just wooing a young lady in a bar. And I'm reading it and I'm like, this is not a good fit for who I am, right? Like she really wants like a southern twanging, probably a woman reading it. And I'm just not that. And so it's not going to work. But, like, I've read some stuff and been like, yeah, I crushed this. Like, no one is going to read this better than me. Like, this is good shit. Some of the, and there are people writing interesting, like, fantasy novels who There was this one fellow, he wrote, what was it? Unto Him a Crown was the name, Unto Him a Crown 2. So, like the first one had to have been successful because he did a sequel. And the language was so good, like so rich. Like that's what really makes it a treasure. That's what makes it a real gift. When you find a book where someone is like, either they have a really good grip on the thesaurus or they've got the thesaurus sitting right there. And you're like, this person's like, what a pleasure it is to read out loud writing that's so like verbose and so rich and so just pleasant. Oh yeah. So even if the story sucks, like even if and I don't know if it does or doesn't. I read 2 pages, but the even if the story sucks, if the language is good, it's such a pleasure. Reading Mary Stuart's Arthurian legend was real pleasure along those lines, because she was so rich and expressive and really took her time writing everything. So like every aspect of Merlin's journey was just like really not, I keep saying the word plotting, but that implies boring. Like it was really like expressive and really like everything was specific, and she was just constantly, and because she would do that with the mundanity of his life, when it got into like the exciting moments and the moments of high tension, then it was really like, oh my God, and like it was epic. So it was really, really great. Anyway. Is it more sinister they're actively preventing scientists to publish? It is more sinister they are actively preventing scientists to publish their work. Is that happening? I haven't seen anything along those lines. Like, yeah, I haven't seen like an expose or anything along those lines. So if somebody could regarding COVID, scientists. Oh, that's a good spelling. Scientists not prevented from releasing COVID data. Alleges. This is back. No, that's back in the day. Not China refused to give data to WHO team, but that's nothing new. Yeah, I'm not seeing if I could get directed to an actual document on that, I'd be interested in that, because, like, I mean, the corporations are not going to let this stuff get released because it's their money, right? Like they don't want other people to be able to use their data to be able to create a vaccine, right? That's not how they want it to go. Anyway. The Conservatives in Parliament now want a trickle-up economy. See, I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this since the beginning. The basic income is a conservative idea. Like, it is a conservative idea.
Now, I want to thank my colleague from Carleton for drawing the direct correlation between the massive spending and our out-of-control inflation. The government likes to pretend that it's a global issue, but I do point out that we've got the second highest inflation in the G7, third highest for food inflation, so I don't think it is just a global issue, but a made in Canada one. Now, one of my colleagues from the Liberal Party asked, where would you cut? Now, with previous Parliament, we heard that the $80 billion wage subsidy did not go through Treasury Board scrutiny, as actually is required under legislation. We saw money went to wealthy hedge fund managers, Air Canada bonuses, Lululemon, which at the same time their market cap was growing $9 billion. I wonder if my colleague from Carleton would like to comment on this wage subsidy out of control without any oversight from the government.
Honourable member for Carleton.
That's a really good question, and I'm glad that the Conservatives are actually bringing it up. Like, the trouble with Conservatives, okay? This historically speaking, Conservatives actually make really good opposition leaders, right? Because fundamentally, they do know what's going on, right? Like, they do. They're just they just also want to extract as much wealth as they can from the populace, right? So when it comes time to actually critique the liberals, they do a pretty good job of it because they know what the liberals are doing, which is maximizing the extraction of wealth from the populace. And they know how they're doing it, and they know why they're doing it, right? But so they can ask these piercing questions while they're the leaders of the opposition. But then when they get into power, they just do that, right? They just extract wealth from the populace like the liberals did.
With a short answer.
Well, the liberals have proven again that trickle-down economics does not work. They said that if they took the printed cash...
Whoa. Wait, time out, guys. Time out. Hold on. We just had Pierre Poilievre say outright in Parliament, in front of everybody, in front of Canada, on record, forever, etched into the earth.
Well, the Liberals have proven again that trickle-down economics does not work.
Boom. Like, boom. That's the Conservative Party of Canada right there, saying that out loud. And make no mistake, Pierre Poilievre is, like, right next in line to become the leader of that party, right? The reason why he isn't angling for it right now is because Aaron O'Toole he doesn't want to start a fight, right? Like, he wants to wait until O'Toole peters out, and then he's going to step into the position. That's what he wants. And for this guy to stand up and say in Parliament in front of everybody that trickle-down economics doesn't work is actually a big moment. It's actually a fairly substantial moment. Is he bullshitting us? Probably. Like, they are conservatives, right? They could just be that they're figuring out that, oh yeah, you just got to lie to everybody, right? That worked for Ford, that worked for Kenny, right? That's obviously worked for the liberals. Oh, just bullshit everybody. What's everybody saying? Trickle-down economics doesn't work? Okay, trickle-down economics doesn't work. Like, they don't care. So that could be what's going on. Or maybe we're actually seeing a moderate shift to sanity in the Conservative Party. Unlikely, but...
They said that if they took the printed cash, gave it to government, bought up financial assets, that eventually, we were told, this money would trickle down to the working people. In fact, it all stayed on the top, and the billionaires got a third richer in the first 6 months of COVID, while the working class saw its real wages decline. Inflation is now rising twice as fast as our wages. It is a massive wealth transfer from the working poor to the super wealthy. Conservatives want to reverse the trend, stop the big government, stop trickle-down economics, and restore a bottom-up paycheck economy.
So it could possibly be the fact, guys. Like, here's a real truth about conservatism and conservatives, right? Is that when it comes down to it, conservatives do understand, like, conservatives understand Karl Marx better than probably Marxists do, right? That Marxism is a critique of capitalism that is centered on the class conflict between the ownership class, the people who own the means of production, and the people who work for them, the laborers, right? What Marx calls the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, right? With the bourgeoisie being the capitalists and the proletariat being the workers. And conservatives understand this dynamic better than anybody. And when it comes down to it, conservatives are going to, just like you take a look at Roosevelt, right? Roosevelt did exactly what it is I'm about to describe, which is that we have to save capitalism. To save capitalism, we're going to reform it. We're going to get rid of the wealth extraction program. We're gonna change everything around. We're gonna put in things like a basic income. We're gonna give people the reforms they want, because we know that if we don't, that the proletariat can overthrow the whole system of capital, and that we, the capitalists, the owners of the society, will no longer be the owners of the society. And that's the number one thing they care about. And so the reason why we're seeing the conservatives talk this way is not because they're sitting there going like, working Canadians are in trouble. Boy, howdy. It's because they're in trouble and they know it. Like, if they could rule and just fuck over the workers and enact slavery and have everything be like that, and own the society and do what they want, they would. But the reality is that there is obviously a sentiment coming from the bottom of the society, high, telling these guys, our plan is to surround the halls of power and eliminate capitalism from our society completely. That all of the shit that you own, you won't own. All of the wealth that you've piled in the corner, you won't have. In fact, many of you will go to jail. In fact, some of you will hang from the gallows for the treasons you've committed against us. So yeah, I think the conservatives are in like straight up like big flashing red alert mode now. I think they're just straight up like, hey, we got to save capitalism. Hey, we got to save capitalism. Crucial threat to capitalism. And I think one of the big things that's really scared the shit out of them, and it has scared the shit out of them, is that they did this big push through the National Post of the Capitalist Manifesto. And I think the thing that scared the shit out of them is that no one gives a fuck at all. That's scaring them a lot. That like they did this huge push on this Capitalist Manifesto idea, and no one gives a fuck. No one cares. It's literally a guy like me standing in the corner being like, bullshit, and that's it. Like, that's the response they're getting from that. So these guys know that they're in a crisis. Like, a major, like, a survival crisis, an existential crisis of capitalism itself. And they know that if they continue to abandon the working class, if they continue to betray everybody, if they continue to destroy the society, if they continue just giving everything to the wealthy and flipping the bird to the proletariat, they are going to see a revolution that will overthrow them. They know that that's going to happen. And so now they're standing up and they're actually saying, trickle-down economics doesn't work. Why are we giving money to wealthy people? We've actually got to do something to reverse this trend, because they would prefer to live in a capitalist system with slightly less money than to not have ownership of the means of production at all. And we saw that with Roosevelt, right? The New Deal didn't happen because Roosevelt was like, I am a good man who cares about the needs of the people. He did it because there were people outside his door that were saying the means of production should be transferred into the hands of the working people. And if that were to occur, all of this class of capitalists would be gone. Like, gone. And I actually think that that's the best case scenario for the society. These people are worthless, vampiric, ghoulish, familiar losers. All of them. Like, no exception. Some of them should be hung as traitors. Like, outright. Any of these fossil fuel CEOs, for example. Like, we should put them on trial, and we should try them for treason for the lies that they have committed against the populace. For sure. The burning down of Lytton alone. The flooding in BC alone. Right? Like, the droughts in Manitoba. Like, these people should be tried as we would try war criminals. And so they're getting desperate. Right? And they know that it can swing further to the left. They know it can swing further to the left. And if it does start to swing further to the left, they're not going to be able to control it. That's what's scary for these guys. That should the politics swing further to the left, or even further to the right, even the PPC, right? That's not a good outcome for them either, honestly. Like, because the PPC, like, the PPC is erratic. They don't know what they stand for. Not really. Right? So these guys are terrified. They're terrified because if this thing goes sideways, they could lose fucking everything. They should lose everything, if you ask me. They should lose everything. These guys are fucking psychopathic losers. And so guys like Pierre Paul Vieira are now standing up and talking the good game because he's starting to realize, oh shit, yeah, abandoning huge sections of the population, like literally 80 to 90% of the population, calling them lazy and stupid, telling them to fuck off, burying them under student debt, pretending as though trickle-down economics actually works when it's a complete and total fraud and a failure, is going to result in a social revolution. Yeah, maybe we should not. So I'm glad to see it. I don't believe them. Like, I think that's important to say. Like, I don't believe these guys at all. I think if they get into power, they'll just continue the wealth extraction program. That's what I think. And they're just figuring out that, oh, the way to attain power in Canada is just a lie. Because Canadians are extremely gullible and just refuse to believe that reality exists in significant ways. So, just lie. And here he is. But the fact is that he feels the need to lie, which I think is important. Anyway, big long diatribe there on that, because like any shift that happens in a political party has to be talked about at length. And that, what we just saw right there, is a dramatic shift. This is a dramatic shift. Like literally an inversion of what they have been saying. Straight up, like. So, and it's notable. This statement alone.
Trickle-down economics does not work.
Trickle-down economics does not work. Straight up. Like, just the fact that that's even being said by the conservatives is dramatically different. We should be skeptical of it for obvious reasons, but the fact that it's needing to be said by them is interesting. Again, and bringing it into a basic income, this is not an endorsement of a basic income. Like, the conservative solutions are going to be things like make work projects, right? They'll just do what FDR did, right? Put people to work doing pointless stuff. Continue to assert the dominance of the capitalist class. That's the ultimate goal, right? It's just, sure, we'll make it so that your life isn't shitty. Sure, we'll make it so that you're not exhausted all the time. Sure, we'll make it so that, like, everything's nice. But I still own everything, right? Good. As long as that dynamic exists, they'll give you everything. They'll give you everything. Oh, you want a 4-day work week? Sure. Oh, you want a 3-day work week? Sure. Oh, you want enough wealth so that you can have a house, 3 kids, a car, all that kind of stuff? Sure. You want to have a little castle? Sure. All that kind of stuff? Absolutely. Sure. You're still coming to work at 9 a.m. though, right? For me, right? So I can go golfing and do nothing, right? Great. Like, that's the point. And we shouldn't let them do it. We just shouldn't let them do it. Anyway, thanks for that share, DM. That was good. You guys are probably chatting away about it. I've not finished it, only 15 minutes in, seems interesting. Malone invented mRNA tech and released patents to who? Either way of capitalism? Absolutely, dude. Yeah, sadly, Michael Parenti has dementia. Yeah, I saw somebody who actually went and visited him and gave us a bit of an update on Michael Parenti, and yeah, that's exactly the case. Like, he has dementia, which is a real loss. What a loss. Like, I think about Michael Parenti, and I think about how Noam Chomsky is going around. Noam Chomsky did an interview just yesterday where he was saying things like the Republican Party is the most dangerous party, is the most dangerous organization in world history, that our government is doing everything it can to destroy the planet. Like, just laying it right out. Like, and he's like a highly respected individual. Like, he's not like me. I'm like a voice in the wilderness, like off on the side of the corner. Like, Noam Chomsky is the most cited intellectual in American discourse. And he is walking around saying that, like, yeah, we're destroying ourselves. We're not doing anything about it. It's a catastrophe. What's happening? The Republican Party are more dangerous than the Nazis. Because even the Nazis weren't interested in destroying the entire planet. Like, to hear someone like Chomsky saying these sorts of things is simultaneously empowering and terrifying. And you know for a fact that someone like Michael Parenti, if he was in the conversation, he would be saying very similar stuff. But he would be, unlike Chomsky, Chomsky keeps it within the confines of America. And in fact, Chomsky's critiques of other nations are usually not very good, honestly. Like, when he starts talking about the Soviet Union or China or any of this kind of stuff, he seems a little poorly read, I'll put it that way. Whereas Michael Parenti is not. Like, Michael Parenti knows what's up. When he starts talking about, especially like the Eastern Bloc or the Soviet Union, he knows what's up. And it's a real loss. It's a real loss. If you can find Michael Parenti, I highly suggest listening to Michael Parenti. You can find him on YouTube. Michael Parenti is the bomb, dude. And it's such a... But that's life, isn't it? That's life. That's called being a fucking human being, right? That what the interview was talking about. I just posted a link, but it was in science in general, not just COVID. Where did you post that link, dude? Did you post it in? Are you in here? What's wealth does not trickle down, you have to make them bleed first. Well, I don't get the argument that employers can't afford to pay $15 an hour. That's the value of labor. If I can't afford a Porsche, then I can't get a Porsche. I don't get to demand a discount on Porsches. If a business can't afford labor, that's on the business, not the labor market. Yeah, I don't believe these conservatives, though, DM. Pierre gets my vote if that's the case. I just don't believe them. Like, I just don't see why we should believe them, is the thing, right? They're obviously in damage control. Like, they're obviously in damage control. And, like, I don't see any reason to believe these guys at all. Like, they're going to say what they need to say to get power, and then they're just going to dig the knife in deeper, right? That's these guys are psychos. Like, they're not telling you the truth because they've had a come to Jesus moment, and they're like, oh goodness, all of the things that we've been saying for the last 40 years turned out to be false. We've got to do what we can do to help these people who we have mistakenly, like, all of the shit that they're doing, like, everything that has happened, they knew what they were doing. They understood that it was a wealth extraction project that we had to deceive the populace in order to enact. They understood it, right? They didn't accidentally bumble into this shit. They knew what they were doing. And now they're in a position, like, look at what Trudeau did with the climate change conversation, right? Oh, the people really care about climate change, so I also will pretend to care about climate change, and then when we get into power, I will do, like, one thing to convince the people that I care, so that's the carbon tax, which the fossil fuel industry gave him as a policy. And then he bought a pipeline, jacked production, jacked emissions, right? Totally bullshitted everybody, right? Conservatives are doing the same thing. Trickle-down economics does not work. First thing they'll do when they get into power is give a bunch of money to billionaires. First thing they'll do, right? Like, we have gotten to a point in our politics where the populace is so exhausted, so tired, and so gullible that they'll just literally be like, okay, yeah, that guy's saying the things I like. That guy's saying the things I like. Maybe he'll help. Maybe he'll help. That's where the populace is at. Like, and nobody's actually pausing for a minute and being like, wait a minute, is this guy a complete and total fraud that has been working against my interests for my entire life? Yeah. The conservatives, and a guy like Pierre Poilievre especially, has been working against your interests for his entire life. And now suddenly he stands up once and he says one line, and we're all supposed to be like, oh, conservatives. No, they're lying, obviously. And, like, we shouldn't support them or vote for them. We should be happy that they're actually they actually feel the need to lie in a way that includes the truth, because it's unavoidable now, right? Like, that's interesting. Like, that's the interesting shift, that they actually have to acknowledge that trickle-down economics doesn't work. They actually have to say these things out loud because it's gotten so obvious. Like, the comet's right fucking there, right? Like, but I don't believe them. Like, they can tell. This is what I've always said about Pierre Poilievre, right? He will tell. The reason why he's so dangerous is that he will tell you the truth until the very, 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 very end, right? And then once he's got you in on the buy-in, then he'll just jam the dagger up between your ribs and twist it as hard as he can, right? He's a very, very sneaky, sinister figure. And should the Conservatives take power, you're going to see a ramp up of neoliberalism and a ramp up of trickle-down economics that would make these liberals blush. Like, because the Conservatives the Conservatives understand the game better than anybody else. And they understand that, like, when you get power, you use it. And you use it when you've got it. Right? Like, that's what makes Trudeau such an embarrassing prime minister, is that he refuses to use his power. Like, when Harper got his majority, he fucking used it. Like, he used his power to do what he wanted. And, like, Pierre Poilievre and, like, Aaron O'Toole and all these guys, like, if that suddenly, and the narrative of always, like, well, they'll do that and then we'll vote them out. Yeah, they know. Like, they know that's part of the game, right? It's like when, like, Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide because he went to prison. It's like, he knew he was going to go to prison at some point. That's the game. That's part of his job, right? Like, it's not like he was caught and he went, oh no, my game is over. He was like, okay, now I'm in this phase of the game that is this, right? He knew this was going to happen. He knows it's part of it. Getting into power, enacting the legislation you want to enact, and then pissing everybody off and getting voted out is the Conservative game. That's how they play, right? And their allies, the Liberals, when they get into power, they don't change anything. So all of the Conservative stuff stays, right? And they know it. Like, these Conservatives are very dangerous, especially because they're becoming sneakier and sneakier. Like, that their arrogance is gone. They actually feel like they have to be underhanded now. That's very dangerous. Anyway. Sorry, Eric. They won't let you put links in the chat. This is the video where the guy was talking about... It does it have a title? Because I could search it. Have you seen Pierre's questioning of did any Canadians outside Canada get served? The back and forth was crazy. I think I've had enough of Pierre Poilievre. Most soft liberals will hardcore vote for Pierre and many PPC as well. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, the only reason, like, there's a fairly large segment of the Liberal Party that only votes Liberal to kind of save face, you know? They don't want to vote, they don't want their friends and families looking at them being like, you voted Conservative? Like, that's basically what it comes down to. And the Conservatives are doing everything they can to make it so that it's okay to vote Conservative again. And we shouldn't let it happen, right? If you vote Conservative, and frankly, if you vote Liberal, I think you're a piece of shit. Like, straight up, I just think you're a piece of shit. Like, I think it is okay if something bad happens to you. If something bad happens to you and you vote, if you vote Conservative and Liberal, and then something bad happens to you, I'll laugh at you. Like, I don't think you're a good person. I think you're a piece of shit. It's very, very, very simple, straightforward shit. Like, you are voting to betray the populace, to betray the species, to betray everyone you know, including your own children. I think you're a piece of garbage. Don't vote Liberal, don't vote Conservative. No matter what they say. Because they're liars. Like, psychopathic, untrustworthy liars. Jugmeat needs to resign and the NDP need to be more left if they want to win. Yeah. Well, yeah, Jugmeat's been bought out, but even most importantly, I don't think he can win. Like, I just don't think he can win. Canada is way too racist to vote for somebody like Jugmeat. Like, it's just not going to happen. Unless there's literally like an Obama, like, upswell of energy where suddenly everybody's like, who cares if he's wearing a turban? I'm going to vote for him anyway. Like, unless that literally happens, and I don't see it. Like, I don't see even a shred of that. there's no way he's going to get power. Like, it's just not going to happen. And it's tough to say because the last election was so, like, constipated. So I don't want to blame Jagmeet for not being able to get the seats that they thought they were going to get. And also, like, the NDP were the only party to actually gain votes outside of the PPC. The PPC gained a lot of votes, but the NDP did as well. The Conservatives and the Liberals lost votes, right? So overall, the Conservatives and the Liberals have experienced a decline in support. But given the way the riding system works, it still shook out to be kind of the same thing, with even a little bit of growth in the Liberal Party, right? But so Jagmeet could grow the party, like it could happen, but it is going to be in this kind of like incrementalist sort of way, right? When we are really facing a moment where like we need like a full scale sweep of our parliament, like figures like Aaron O'Toole, Pierre Poilievre, right, Rona Ambrose, Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, they need to be gone, like gone from the discourse. We need to say as a people, like, you lot are done. It's over, right? Stop voting Conservative, stop voting Liberal. Like, full stop. Stop voting Conservative, stop voting Liberal. You are voting for a comet to hit the Earth. Like, it's very straightforward shit. And yeah, like I like Jagmeet could be saying the words basic income have never come out of his mouth in public that I've ever seen. Like I don't understand it. I don't understand why Jagmeet's not walking around being like you literally can connect a basic income to everything, right? We want to fight climate change and it's going to disrupt the economy, and so we're going to implement a basic income first and foremost while we desubsidize the fossil fuel industry. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't, this is obvious rhetoric at this point. Like, it's obvious. And he's just not interested. Because ultimately I think I have Jagmeet pegged. Jagmeet's not interested in being the Prime Minister of Canada. He has become the leader of the NDP, and that was his ambition, and he's done it. He's not interested in being the Prime Minister. Right? He's gotten to the position he wanted to get to. And that's good. Right? You see that shit all the time, right? People become leaders of things and people become stuff, and that's it for them. Like someone like Donald Trump. Like, Donald Trump has no wide vision or ambition on the world stage, right? His ambition is to be the president. And that's it. I am the president. Story over, right? That's why, honestly, that's the reason why the COVID shit got bungled so bad under his administration. Because he didn't care about it. Because his ambition is not to help people. His ambition isn't to even be a good president. He is just the president. And that's it. So Roosevelt did it because he wanted to plunge the nation into war, drive the nation into bankruptcy, and that he breakfast every morning on a dish of grilled millionaire. Pierre Poilievre is a very smart man with great insight. He is a smart man, and he's willing to sound like he's got great insight. Hopes he follows through on what he's preaching when he becomes PM? No. Like, that's just not going to happen. You're just not accepting how dark and sinister these guys are. You're just not accepting how, like, the lies that they will tell. Like, they will literally, like, they will dress like an angel and walk you to the pearly gates with promises of glory as long as you give them your vote. And then literally as the pearly gates are opening and they're going to send you into heaven, they're going to turn the dagger and drop you straight down into hell. It's who these guys are. It's how they've always operated. It's what they care to do. It's what they want to do. It's all they've ever done. And now, because the only reason they're talking this way is because they can't get any power. Right? That if they could ascend to the prime ministership and power with the old narrative of neoliberalism is great and your impoverishment is good because it's making rich people richer, they would keep talking that way. The only reason they're changing their tune is because now they've gone through several elections where they can't gain any extra power. They've capped. They can't get bigger than this. This is who they are. And so suddenly what? It's come to Jesus? Suddenly it's like, oh, we've got to mend our ways and find forgiveness. No, fuck that. These guys are psychopathic liars who are going to lie to you about literally everything. Like, these guys are Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings, right? You know how Wormtongue had, like, the King of Rohan, and he was, like, sitting there whispering in his ear, like, oh, these people, that's who they are, right? And if they need to put on a nice suit and have a nice haircut and wear, like, and have a nice voice and be, like, trained vocalists and all this kind of stuff to tell you honeysuckle sweet lies, they'll do it. Because that's who they are. Like, and it's all, like, we gotta stop being so fucking gullible. Like, we gotta stop being so fucking gullible with this. These people are psychopaths. Part of being a psychopath is being a charming, effective liar. Like, stop believing them. Just stop. Like, assume they're lying to you. I don't know why this is so difficult for Canadians, but it's difficult for Canadians because we're so fucking gullible. Like, we're very, very, very gullible. We might be the most gullible people on the planet. Like, we believe all kinds of shit that is just outrageous. But no, okay, normal. My hope for 2022 is for Doug Ford to lose big to the NDP. We'll see. It'll probably be a Liberal victory, honestly. Again, the gullibility of the people, right? Like, just the exhausted, like, can't actually look into anything, don't really know anything about anything, right? And like, oh, if you don't vote Conservative, you vote Liberal. And, you know, the Liberals are polling just as well as the NDP are right now in Ontario. Because reasons. From Kawasakan News. Cuba and China have signed a cooperation plan for a joint promotion of the Belt and Road Initiative. Yeah, USA is jealous. Yeah. Well, that means that, like, any hope that the United States had to, like, invade or overthrow Cuba is over. And in fact, actually, the sanction regime against the Cuban people has been a failure. Right? Because what has it done? It chased Cuba into the hands of her enemies, right? Like, so now they've got this island nation off the coast of Florida that has direct connection to China, right? And, like, Cuba's economy is going to explode. Like, it's going to explode. And it's gonna become, like, this cool place where people want to be. They already have, like, a fairly robust and interesting tourist economy. So as they build up their country and as things get better and better for them, more and more tourists are gonna come, right? Like, Cuba's gonna become, like, a cool hip place to be. And just wait until the Chinese start going to Cuba, like. And the Chinese tourism to Cuba is gonna be incredible. Andrea Horvath needs to up her game. Yeah. No, this is her moment. Like, this is the moment. It's do or die now for Andrea, and she's just not. It's just a very limp campaign, honestly. 3 sick days. Raise the minimum wage by 2026. Like. Come on, Andrea. Like, come on. Like, she's not rising to the moment. Like, we are in a significant crisis. Like, as significant a crisis as any civilization has ever experienced. Maybe a crisis so significant that no civilization has ever experienced it. Right? Like, this, I think this is part of what's so baffling about this moment. Like, this is the most dramatic crisis in human history, right? Where it's not an outside external army, right? It's not another group of humans. It's ourselves destroying ourselves because we refuse to live within the limits of the universe itself. That we literally are picking a fight with God. Like, if I were to write a story about what's happening, that's exactly what we're doing. We're picking a fight with God himself. We're going to lose. We're going to lose big time. And why are we picking a fight with God? So that kids can have fucking LOL dolls. So that billionaires can play with digital Pokemon cards. Like, asinine, inane so that Jeff Bezos can shoot a rocket into space. Like, just asinine amusement park level bullshit. That's the reason we're doing all of this, right? So not only is it the massive crisis of all of human civilization, it's entirely self-inflicted. Entirely self-inflicted. Unless you genuinely believe we can pick a fight with God and win. No. Like, no. That's not how it's gonna go. Right? And who do we have in positions of power? We've got liberals who acknowledge there's a problem and then do everything they can to make the problem worse. We've got a group of conservatives who the leadership is willing to acknowledge that there's a problem, but the base doesn't. Right? And then we've got, like, the weakest iteration of the NDP I've ever seen in my life. It's time for a revolution. Like, we need it. We need it. Like, I'm not gonna just stand around and wait for the comet to hit. Like, I'm not. I'm not gonna be like the schlubs in the movie who just sort of, like, went to dinner. Right? Like, we have to surround the halls of power. We have to overthrow this system. It's what is necessary. And why? Because all levels of our leadership are ignoring it. All of them, across the board. Right? And how do we know that they're ignoring it? Because we're literally still going around and doing shit with NATO. We're literally still part of NATO. The number one polluter on the planet is the American military. Like, oh, John, if you pull out of NATO, then the Americans, oh, well, what if they invade? Like, it all burns down anyway, you guys. Like, what isn't connecting here for people? Like, where's the miss? Like, what's going on here? Like, how do I bridge this for you? So that you understand that, like, we have to start acting in dramatic ways because the consequences of what we are doing are going to be overwhelmingly dramatic. And even if we do something and it results in, like, a catastrophe, it burns down anyway. Like, when the fucking comet hits, the earth blows up. Like, I don't know what we need anymore. Like, I don't know what words to string in a pattern to get people to understand the level of crisis that we are actually facing. And the entire time it's going on, our leadership is just, like, mollycoddling us. Like, the Trudeau administration is the most embarrassing administration in Canadian history, period, full stop. Like, not interested in rising to the occasion. Like, the Nazis are invading the coasts of Canada, and they're just going like, oh, there's nothing no, we acknowledge that there is an army invading the coast of Canada. And we promise to, in 5 years' time, put together a plan to address the Nazis invading the coasts of Canada. Like, shut the fuck right fucking up. It's a policy of abandonment. It's a system of abandonment. It's a structure of abandonment. The entire thing is abandonment. And it's gotten so bad that even our enemies are admitting it. Like, it's time to grow up. It's time to look up. Right? It's time to wake up. And it's time to start fucking doing something about it. And we're just not. Liberal! The the Liberals increased my CPP donation by 20%. Yeah, so as the comet hits, I'll be making $200 extra. Liberal. Like, what a fucking sellout. Like, literally selling out your children, literally selling out your grandchildren. Like, for what? So that you can be slightly more comfortable before the comet hits? Like, get completely fucked. At this point, if you dare walk into a ballot box and check liberal or check conservative, I consider you as bad as a Nazi. And no, I'm not going to... I'll die on that hill. I'll die on that hill. Like, and treat people who vote conservative and liberal as if they're scumbags. Because they are. They're actively saying to your face, I don't care if you're abandoned to homelessness and poverty and destruction, nor do I care about the species that's going to get wiped out by climate change. I want $200 extra a month. Liberal. Fucking embarrassing. And like people like Andrea Horvath, she's not up to it. Like she's not up to it. She's not interested. Like the more and more that I learn about Andrea Horvath and the more and more I see about her, she's just not interested. She's like Jagmeet Singh. She wants to be the leader of the NDP. Right? She doesn't actually care to be the leader of the province. Right? Like nor is she actually interested in listening to the people who actually might vote for her. She's far more interested in what the conservative voters are saying than what her potential voters are saying. Today, President-elect of Honduras, Xiomara Castro, received her credential from the National Electoral Council ahead of the January 27th inauguration flag of Honduras. Great news. Good luck, Honduras. Watch out for the coup. Yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate, Vince. I think a PC minority is probably right. Like, yeah, Eric, if you donate $1 to the Patreon, you get in the Discord. That's how it works. I'm trying to keep. I don't want the Discord to just be a place where anybody can wander into. I want it to be a place for people who are serious about the channel and serious about trying to organize and getting ourselves together. Yeah, I've given up hope. NDP are returning to third place, 25 to 30 seats. Libs will be second, and PC will be 55. PC minority. Yeah, and once I actually realized how disgusting conservative voters actually are, that really shifted it for me. Like these people are like they're ghouls. Like when we went to protest the spiking poverty that's happening here in Ontario at Doug Ford's house, right? Doug Ford's neighbors came out, and I have to say, like, every interaction I had with those neighbors was dark, like really bleak, like dark, bleak shit, where like they obviously do not care about people in poverty, like obviously, right? They think people who are in poverty are scum. An older gentleman attempted to destroy our sound system. Children would point and laugh at disabled people who were protesting, while their parents just sort of smirked and giggled along with them. Right? These people are dark, like and like it's not enough to look at a guy like Doug Ford and say like, wow, Doug Ford, what a piece of shit, what all this kind of stuff. The people who vote for him are as bad, if not worse. Like, Doug Ford actually might be better than a lot of his voters. Like, these people are dark figures in our society. And we've just, like, handed power to them. While they literally, and, like, actively are selling the society out so that they can have, like, like a gold-encrusted toothbrush or something. Like, when I say psychopathic, I'm being dead serious. Like, they don't understand even what the concept of empathy or compassion might even be. You understand? Like, not only do they not know what compassion is, they don't feel it. It doesn't exist in their body, right? They don't even understand what it might be. Like, these are the people that we're dealing with. And you could just literally, like, walk to Doug Ford's neighborhood, do some door knocking, start talking to these people. You'll figure it out pretty fast. So I think a PC minority is right, given how duplicitous and shitty Ontarians are. Yeah, you can't post links in the chat, Eric. It's very simple. It'll just delete it. If there's a title that I can search, I'll search it. But the name of the actual video is Assange Looming Extraction, and the first half of the video is about Assange, but the other half is about the interview. Oh, is this a YouTube thing? Yeah, YouTube. I don't think I can find it, bud. I'm just gonna move on. Sorry, dude. Donate $1 to my Patreon, and then you can put it in the Discord. Yeah, I can see this guy's a dangerous PM. Yeah, absolutely. If Andrea Horvath loses in June, it's over for her. I can see her stepping down from her post. Yeah, if she can't beat an empty chair, like Steve Del Duca is an empty chair liberal, right? Nobody knows who he is except that he worked for Kathleen Wynne. He's a Wynne toady, right? And if she can't beat that, and if she can't beat like a literal psychopath, like, it's over for her, right? Like, she can't beat anybody if she can't beat these guys. And the reason why she can't beat these guys is because she's weak. Like, she has no bold initiative. She has, like, no real ideas. She's not interested in, like, pounding the pulpit and actually saying what needs to be said, right? Like, she's weak. She keeps trying to play by the rules of the conservatives and the liberals, and those are rules that were created by the conservatives and the liberals. Like, stop it. Like, these guys are psychos. Like, I don't understand why she's just not saying that. Like, these guys are fucking psychos. Is it not obvious? Like, what's kind of embarrassing about Andrea Horvath in this moment is that it looks like she's just kind of giving up. Really, that's what I see. Like, this is her shot. This is her chance. And she's not willing to stand up and say the truth and be bold. What? Because it's impolite? So she's literally going to lose because she doesn't want to be impolite. Like, it's embarrassing. And it speaks to her unwillingness to actually, like, she doesn't have what it takes to be the leader of the province. Right? Because the leader of the province would be hungry for it, would actually go out and attempt to get it. She's just not. Like, I just see somebody going through the motions. I'm the leader of the NDP. This is what the leader of the NDP is supposed to do. Like, eviscerate these psychopaths. Reach out, grab their balls, don't let go. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know why she wants to present herself as weak. Because that's what she's doing. She's presenting herself as weak. My father was laughing at a story about a lazy he knows evicting someone because there's bread all over and messy homelessness. How you doing, Barnabas? War on drugs failure, trickle-down failure, coup failures. Yeah. For the whole God thing, the thing that I like to say is Mother Nature is very patient, gives us lots of warnings, yeah, but her patience is running thin. And once she loses her patience and lets her wrath loose, it will be too late for us. Yeah, that's exactly right. Hey, Harry, how you doing? We are simultaneously in a debt crisis, pandemic, climate change, China becoming the dominant economy, collapse of Western capitalism. Yep. All of these things all at once. And our leadership is just not interested in resolving a single one of them. At this stage in the game, and they're open about it, like they tell you, straight to your face, that we just need to deal with these things as they happen. That's it. That's their whole idea. Like, we'll just deal with these things as they occur. Like, oh, okay. It's like saying, like, we'll deal with cancer as we get it. Should we do something preventative to prevent us from getting cancer in the first place? No. No. In fact, we're going to do more of the stuff that gives us cancer. Like, yikes. Per capita, the Western world is worse than China, and China is trying to eliminate their pollution, and right now they are the leading renewable energy in the world. I also had a conservative said to me, climate change is a liberal hoax for faithless God. We'll never let that happen since God is control of nature. Yeah, right. When you encounter those sorts of people, by the way, you go ahead and you send them over to their Bible, because it's their book. You get them to read the book of Job, right? You get them to read the book of Job and really get them to understand that God does not give a fuck about you. This delusional nonsense that you're putting on at his feet. The book of Job is a story about how God and the devil have a bet to ruin Job's life. God lets the devil murder his family, his entire family, to an individual, his wife, his children, everybody. Burn down everything he owns, send a plague through his livestock and cattle. Job loses literally everything. And then inflict Job with boils to make his existence a living hell. The book is even as specific to say that there are boils on the bottom of Job's feet, so that he can never have respite from the torture he's being inflicted by. Your great and powerful, all-loving God. And why does God do this? To prove to the devil that Job loves him. Or that to prove that Job is a holy man, that he respects and reveres God. And then there's a series of conversations that Job has with a series of naysayers, including your individualists, including your people who insist in the prosperity gospel, right? And then at the very end of the book, Job and God have a conversation face to face. And Job basically says, hey, dude, this sucked. Like, this sucked. Like, what's the story? And you know what God's response to that was? Who the fuck are you, you little ant? I could fucking wipe you out in a goddamn moment. Shut your mouth. And Job does. And that's the end of the book. Like, these people walking around saying, like, God will never let that happen because God controls. These are illiterate, deluded rubes who have no respect for God. Say that to them. They have no respect whatsoever for God. That their perception of God is that God will subserviate himself to me because I am so special and nice and I can do anything I like and God will let me do it because he loves me so much. How fucking disrespectful can you get? How fucking disrespectful can you be to your creator? If God wants to wipe you out, he will, and he doesn't need a reason. He doesn't need to create an excuse. He doesn't even need to notice that he's done it. You understand? You are so beneath this concept of God that if God were to come and actively swat you, like a mosquito, he wouldn't have to say, well, I did this to justify this, because he literally would say, shut the fuck up, who are you? And that's the end of the story. These fucking losers walking around pretending like God's not going to let anything happen to them are the most disrespectful, hypocritical losers that have never read the Bible. These fake Christians who think that they're the king shit of Turd Island because they're white. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. It's embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing. Literally read the book once. Like, literally read the book once. And not even like a deep read where you're taking notes or anything, but like a cursory like put the audiobook on while you play video games. Like, do it as a secondary activity. Like, ...2006, 2017, sulfur dioxide levels decreased by 70%. Interesting. Sulfur dioxide levels decreased by 70%. I don't know what that means. I don't know, sulfur decreasing seems good, doesn't it? I don't know. Yeah, just reminding, NDP are technically capitalist. And not even technically. Like, the NDP are capitalist, right? Their entire idea is to work with the unions, and the unions are a capitalist edifice. Thoughts on Viva Frey? I don't know what that is. So those are my thoughts. Social democracy is objectively the moderate wing of fascism. Yeah. They are 100% pro-capitalist. They're just liberal light. Yeah. Orange liberals, I've been calling them. Yeah, cons think we're all lazy, drug addicts, and irresponsible. Happy New Year to you, Ruth. Good to see you. Is it me, or does your chat seem blurry? That might just be you, Ruth. They are Mensheviks who want to reform from within the system, talk about doing something over and over, expecting change. Yeah, it's sad when the NDP is voted for because of cons and the libs. I'm good blood. Sweden is a monarchy. And drop bombs on Libya helped overthrow Gaddafi. Reformists at home, fascists abroad. Exactly. And yet I'm supposed to see a difference between capitalism and fascism. China got fusion working. Yeah, that's starting to happen. Well, and it's happening for exactly the reasons I've been saying, which is that China is just researching for the sake of researching, right? Like, research quantum computing. Well, are you expecting an outcome here? Like, what's the outcome expectation? The expectation is that you research quantum computing. And believe me, like when they built their high-speed rail system in 12 years, there were a lot of failures that occurred, right? And in a capitalist society, those failures would be enough to derail the entire project, because that's how capitalists are. They don't want to see things happen. They don't want to improve the society for people. They're psychopaths. Like, they want money for themselves exclusively, full stop. But China is just like, no, research it. Fail better. Keep failing. Fail and fail and fail and fail and just keep failing until you don't. And that's it. That's how you actually research things. That's actually how research actually works. And we just don't do that here in North America. We're not interested in that. We need to have an outcome already determined before we're even willing to put a dime on the table for it. So, like, how do you actually get any research done under those circumstances? You don't. And because of the nature of the capitalist system and because of the nature of the Western parliamentary system, like, you can never get enough momentum to actually get anything done, because by the time you actually get the capitalists on board, you get all your pieces in a row, well, then some new politician comes in and sweeps it all away. Because our system is based on chaos, and chaos brings order, is the ideology, right? Which fails, doesn't work. It's a total fraud. I know that you said that you have move on, but the thing is that interesting, it actually a perfect example of how YouTube suppresses voices, because I can find it on RT America. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to try again for you, bud, because you seem really passionate on this, so... RT America. Boom. The world, according to Jesse. And you said it was the second section?
I'm Jesse Ventura.
For 100.
Jesse. Professor Sheldon Krimsky studies the link between science, ethics, and public policy. He joins me now to discuss his latest book, Conflicts of Interest in Science, and how special interests shape academia and research to fit their agenda. Sheldon, how do you define scientific integrity, and why is that important?
Sure. The university system was developed to allow autonomous scientists to do their research and to produce their results without having to appeal to the administration or to the president of the university, or if they write an article, they don't have to have it subjected to any review at the university, even if the article affects the university's bottom line. So, and that system has been in place for over 100 years. And it means that when scientists produce their work, it is their work. It's not subjected to any kind of review by anyone else except their peer reviewers in the scientific journal. That's what we mean by scientific integrity.
Researchers need money to conduct experiments. What ethical concerns do they take into consideration when accepting funding from corporations and special interest groups?
So the scientific community gets funding from three types of sources. One is the government. The other are independent nonprofit organizations. And the third are corporations. The highest form of integrity is such that the university would not accept any research funds which obligate the scientist to speak a certain line or to...
Good to see you, Bet. Thanks for letting me know that you're in the chat, honestly. I'm a bit worried that I'm being fairly heavily suppressed, so seeing a new face is always lovely. Hope you're here to participate.
Come out with certain results. So, for example, they might sign a contract with some company to do some research. That contract should stipulate that the company has no right to decide when and if and where that research gets published, or to be able to review the outcome of that research to make changes in what the publication states. That's the highest standard. It hasn't always been fulfilled, but it should be fulfilled. Some universities will not accept funding from a corporation if it has any requirements that restrict the publication of the research, but not all universities.
Now, how prevalent are conflicts of interest in science?
Well, there isn't an easy metric to measure how frequently they exist. A conflict of interest is defined as an interest that could potentially bias the result. It doesn't mean it will bias the result. So, and since the mid-1980s, journals have begun to require people to report in the article they publish whether they have any conflicting interests, so that the reader can decide whether they might have a bias. So in any journal, any of the major journals, medical journals, science journals today, the author has to list where he or she gets his funding or her funding, whether he or she has any investments in a company that relates to the research, whether their family has equity in a company that relates to the research. So it's transparent, it's out in the paper. The reader can then decide whether or not it's relevant to the credibility of the research. So if somebody published an article that says, we've got safe cigarettes, they won't cause cancer, they won't cause emphysema, and then you see that the person who wrote the article is hired by the tobacco industry or a member of the tobacco company, you might say, I'm not going to read that article. It's just too filled with bias. But at least you know. What used to happen was it was all secret and nobody knew. So part of scientific integrity is making transparent what your conflicts of interest might be. The government actually passed a law a few years back that said that the pharmaceutical companies have to list on a public database any funds, any honoraria that they give to a doctor. So you can put your doctor's name in this database and find out if your doctor is receiving any money from the drug companies. The government also passed rules that say any university that accepts money from the government has to keep a record of its faculty's conflicting interests. So every year I have to fill out a form that says, have you received any funds from any other sources besides the university? If so, what were they? They keep a list of this. So maybe I was an expert witness in a litigation case on some toxic substance. I have to list that at the university. And the university would decide if they get in a grant, if you get a grant, whether or not there's a conflict between your interests and the interests of your research. So a lot of things have come together since the mid-1980s that try to limit the amount of conflicting interests in science.
Can you give me some examples of research that is funded by corporation?
Oh, my goodness. Sure. Scientists at universities accept money from corporations to do drug testing, efficacy or safety. So, for example, there was one researcher in California who accepted a contract from a company that wanted to see whether or not the generic drug, which was out there being produced, was equivalent to their drug, which was a trade name drug. So obviously the generics were cheaper than the trade drug. Now, they had a particular interest. They would have liked to have seen that their drug was more effective than the generic. So the researcher did the research, and she came out with the conclusion that they were bioequivalent. Both of them were equivalent.
Right, so like here's a good example of exactly what I'm talking about, right? So instead of it being like the drug already exists. The drug already exists. Here it is. It's generic. You can get it. It's cheap. It's affordable. Anyone can have it, right? So instead of funding research in order to facilitate other problems that might exist, like we literally should be looking at that going, problem solved, right? Did it. We've got the drug. Moving on to something else. Instead of that, a corporation is willing to fund a research project to see if their brand name, their version of it, is better than the generic version so that they can say to people, the brand name is better, buy from us. Can you imagine something that is more worthless? Can you imagine a more worthless waste of time than to literally, like, we're attempting to reinvent the wheel so that we can literally slap a label on a drug and make a credible claim that it's actually better than the generic one that has already existed and is already around? Like, this is a total fucking waste of time. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of everybody's issue, and the only reason it exists is because some fucking corporation, some rich cocksucker, wants to sell a product. Be gone with this. Like, be gone with this. Like, we should be dedicating our scientists to the actual pursuit of actually attempting to solve real problems. Right? This idiotic idea that we're taking scientists out of the labor pool so that they can, what? Like, enact the vanity projects of these ridiculous psychopaths? Like, it's dumb. There's a reason why America is falling behind. There's a lot of reasons why. But a big one is that corporations keep using our scientists to research junk so that corporations can credibly sell shit. Who gives a fuck? Like, who literally gives a fuck? Even if it had have come out that this one is slightly more efficacious than this one. Even if it had have been like the result that they were looking for, where it's like, yeah, this one's slightly better than this one. So? Like, so fucking what? Like, China is over there, like, making major breakthroughs in quantum computing. China's over there being like, we're going to build a moon base by 2030. Like, China's doing significant and real stuff because they're taking scientists, putting them in a room and saying, do science. And they're not saying, compare these two drugs to see which one is more sellable than the other one. They're saying, pull discoveries out of the ether. Forge an understanding between yourself and nature itself to draw from the imaginative forces of creation, from the sciences, and forge them together to bring forth a creation into reality that has never existed before. Like, do you see the difference? There's a reason we're failing as a civilization and as a culture. Because we're just winding ourselves into total, complete, asinine bullshit. That is irrelevant, that does not matter, who gives a fuck at all. While, like, real civilizations are fucking going to, like, open up a portal to new dimensions and shit. We're just, like, over here being like, yeah, that hair dye is 10% more efficacious. Who gives a fuck?
And the company said you can't publish the results because in your contract you didn't read the small print. And it says that we have the ultimate authority of whether you can publish the results. So, as a result, they were going to sue her if she published the results.
Oh, and then they're saying you can't publish
the results. But then, with the threat of the lawsuit, her article, she pulled her article from one of the most important journals, the Journal of the American Medical Association, pulled it out just as it was in galleys, and it wasn't published in that journal. Later on, it came out in the public, and the company had lost a lot of money because of that. But that's the idea, that she signed a contract which gave the company the authority to say you can't publish it. Now, this has happened in the tobacco industry. It happens in the now in the fossil fuel industry, because now the fossil fuel industry wants studies that say fossil fuel doesn't harm us, etc. And in the food industry, a great deal of studies are done by scientists on, whether or not walnuts will make you live longer. And when the walnut industry does research on walnuts, they want it to be positive.
Now, clinical trials are essential to obtaining FDA approval for prescription drugs
Absolutely.
and medical devices.
Yep.
To your knowledge, have conflicts of interest ever affected the outcome of clinical trials or scientific endeavors?
I gotta tell you, I love older Jesse Ventura. As Jesse Ventura is getting older, he still has that like brash bravado, but he's getting older, so everything's a little bit slower, and he's getting that kind of like old man like muddle talk. You know what I'm talking about? But he just like owns it. It's just who he is. So he's like, "Have you ever gone to the supermarket? And what do you think about the prices that you're seeing at the supermarket?" And I'm like, perfect, brilliant, love you, Jesse, bud.
Well, the answer is yes. Clinical trials are done by several kinds of institutions. One is that sometimes they're done with universities, in conjunction with several universities doing clinical trials at different sites. Sometimes they're done by what's called contract research organizations, CROs. These are private independent organizations whose existence depends upon money from industry. And they produce the results and they publish the results in these organizations. So, some of these contract research organizations have done faulty research based upon the fact that they want to keep getting the money from the companies. There's a very famous case that happened in Canada. A researcher, Nancy Oliveri, who's a pediatric oncologist, hematologist, a pediatric hematologist, and she was part of a clinical trial to study whether or not children can use a drug to prevent blood transfusions, which, are pretty invasive, right? So if you can use a drug instead of having the child go through a blood transfusion, it would be a very favorable outcome. So she did her trial at her medical center, and others were doing their trials. She found out that the drug was harming the children, so she stopped the trial and she wanted to report it to her colleagues. The company sued her. She got fired from her university because she was not supposed to release any information until the organizers of the trial said it was okay. She felt she had a Hippocratic oath, that is, do no harm.
Do no harm. Yeah, exactly.
So she revealed the fact that this drug was harming her kids. Eventually, she got her job back. Books were written about it. It was a very famous story. But you can see where when a drug company has so much invested in a drug, they are willing to go to the end of the earth to protect that investment.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like, so because of the chaotic nature of the free market, right? You have all of these different factors and all these different people who are coming in and all different things. And they're actually allowing this idea that you can't publish your results. And why don't they want results to be published? Because they'll go against their brand or go against the narrative that they want, right? That they would rather not have the, like, if it came out during the study that the drug is harmful, well, they don't want that to be released at all, right? So it's like a counterintuitive, like you can't actually create anything under these circumstances. How could you? How could you create anything under these circumstances, right? Like, and if you do discover something, or if you do figure out something, it might not get published. So not only is there this like constant, like chaotic force, there are also forces that are trying to suppress any discovery that occurs if it chews into their bottom line or their perception of their power. So it's like it's a failure within a failure within a failure. It's a series of failures. And think about like the hardship that this doctor who got fired, right? Like think about the lost time. Think about her lost expertise. Think about how she's not actually part of the system, that she has to spend a good deal of her time just defending herself as a professional. The system is designed to be a failure. It doesn't work. And nobody's going to create anything to help anybody to do anything important, right? Like the only thing they care about is selling shit to people. So it doesn't fucking work. Like, period. Ugh. The next generation of scientific discoveries are going to come out of places like Cuba and China. Perhaps Russia. Right? And like, we're just going to steadily fall back into like making like mint flavored chocolate chip ice cream and shit. Like, that's what we do. Like, we're not interested in solving big problems. We genuinely do not care. Like, we care about making, like, cotton candy pants. And, like, a t-shirt that has the word juicy on it. You know? Like, this is what we care about. Like, I'm so done. I'm, like, so done with all of these fucking obvious, overt grifters and frauds. Like... And I'm no longer willing to pretend. Like, I'm no longer willing to give anybody the benefit of the doubt anymore. Like, yeah, my anger is justified. I know it's justified. And I'm so sick and tired of these people who are like, well, you know, John, that might be... Fuck you. Like, fuck you. Like, if somebody walked into your house and shot your wife or shot your husband, you would think that person should go to prison forever. But... if we create a system that literally is going to eradicate the species, well, we should really listen and take, you know, especially as they get elected to prevent it and then don't. Like, get fucked. Get fucked. Get fucked. And again, I need to restate something. I consider everything I say here to be the centrist position. Right? I understand that the Overton window has shifted so far to the right that everyone's like, wow, what a kooky left-winger. Nope. I consider everything I say on this channel to be a centrist position. People should have food and shelter. That is a centrist position. I actually consider that to be a non-political position. That if you are saying there are people who do not deserve food and shelter, you are a psychopath. Period. It's a non-political position. Everyone should have food and shelter. Now, we can talk about how should everyone get food and shelter. That's a political discussion. But if you're going to stand in front of me and actually say there are people who do not deserve food and shelter, then you are a psycho who needs to be chased out of the conversation. Everyone should have food and shelter. Like, everybody should be able to pursue their interests. Again, I think it's another centrist position. And again, another non-political position. If you're going to stand up and say, no, people should not be able to pursue their interests, then I think you're a fucking psycho. And again, we can have a discussion about, well, how should people be able to pursue their own interests? What should that structure look like? And that's a political discussion. Like, our society and our culture and our civilization is so fallen. We are such a failure that we are actually genuinely having conversations about whether or not people get to be alive or not. That's genuinely the conversations that we're having. Like, we are a fallen people. My favorite line of Adam Smith was that a slave is better off than a seasonal worker because a slave, at the very least, has food and shelter. but a seasonal worker doesn't. And Eric, that's actually an argument that came out of the slavers of the Confederate South, that they argued that chattel slavery was a better system than wage slavery, and that the abolishment of chattel slavery would just result in creating more wage slaves. And their rationale was exactly the reason you gave, that if you own a slave, you've got to take care of a slave even if there is no work, right? So during the down season, right, when you can't put them to work in the fields or anything like this, you still got to take care of them, right? Whereas the wage slave can just lay them off and tell them to get fucked, right? That was their argument. And I mean, Lincoln ran on a platform of abolishing wage slavery. Like, and if you actually go back and look at the records, this statement that chattel slavery was worse than wage or was better than wage slavery was actually sort of generally accepted. Like, people generally, like, if you didn't agree with it, it wasn't like a hard disagreement. You were just like, well, no, and you were like creating a more philosophical sort of disagreement. Because everybody understood under Lincoln that wage slavery was shit. And incidentally, that's the system we have now. Like, it's the same fucking system. He wasn't successful because he had to fight a civil war to get rid of chattel slavery. And like, I mean, it's sort of debate. There is a debate to be had about how serious Lincoln may have pursued war with the South for other reasons, right? I think slavery was definitely in the mix, but like, the South was its own kind of country, honestly. Like, it was like a feudal country in America. And like, those wounds, incidentally, the South versus the North and all of that, like, a big reason why people find American politics to be a bit inscrutable is because people don't really understand that, like, the Civil War lines, right? That conflict is still ongoing. Like, the South will rise again is a serious thing that people seriously say. And like, what does that mean? The South will rise again. Well, like, what do you think it means? Right? The Confederates will rise again. And they viewed themselves as their own independent country. Right? That for a brief period of time they were. They declared their independence. Like, and should the Confederates have won that war, then the Southern United States would be its own country. Right? Very interesting observation, Eric. Guess my dad's a psycho, but he's also a petty bourgeoisie. Yeah, the petty bourgeoisie make the least amount of sense, dude. Like, they're I don't get what they're defending. Speaking of psychopaths, John Tory's police issued 1,500 COVID fines earlier this year to homeless people because these people were not in their homes. Yeah, dude. Like, and what's so fucking ridiculous about what John Tory has done to the homeless in this city is all of the money that he is spending to go after these homeless people. He could literally just give that money to the homeless people and it would solve their problem immediately. Like, that's how embarrassing John Tory has become as a figure. Like, I'm so looking forward to this next election. I don't think Tory's going to run again. I think he understands what he's done. Like, I think he understands that he's disgraced. Like, if he does run again, he's going to get fucking raked over the coals, as he should be, for this shameful point alone. Take the money you spent beating the homeless up, give them that money, solve homelessness, like, homelessness problem solved. But like, conservatives like Tory are just embarrassing. They don't view the homeless as people. They don't view them as citizens. Like, they don't have like the homeless apparently don't have a right to security and protection, right? They don't have the rights bestowed on them by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms because they're not considered people. They're not considered citizens. But they are citizens. Like, that's what's so shameful about conservatism, about Tory. Like, these people are citizens. They deserve respect. They deserve help. Why do they deserve it? Because they're our citizens. Because they are our peers and our equals. And just because they've fallen on hard times doesn't make them any worse than us. Like, no. John Tory needs to, like, he needs to fucking resign. Like, he needs to resign over this. He's assaulting his own citizens that he has pledged to protect. That's what he is doing. John, we need to get you on a podium. Yeah, all right. I'm down. People purposefully go to prison because there's free food and shelter. Yeah, I knew a guy who, his whole thing, this was before the, like, 3 strikes you're out shit of Harper, but, like, I knew a guy who, like, he would, around September, he would do some sort of, like, petty larceny or something like this, something that he knew would give him, like, just like a 6-month sentence or something like that. He would go to jail. They would release him in the spring, and then he would spend the spring, summer, and fall kind of tooling about, you know, and then he would commit some kind of petty larceny again. The cops knew who he was. They knew what his game was, and he did it anyway. Right? Like, what a smart system we have. Like, what an intelligent thing we're doing. You check live for coup article. Uh-oh, we got a coup? Oh, yeah, of course they're going to do a coup, dude. Retired general warns the U.S. military could lead a coup after the 2024 election. That's fun. As the anniversary of the insurrection of the U.S. Capitol approaches, 3 retired U.S. generals have warned that another insurrection could occur after the 2024 presidential election, and the military could instigate it. The generals, Paul Eaton, Antonia Taguba, and Stephen Anderson, made their case in a recent Washington Post op-ed. In short, we are chilled to our bones at the thought of a coup succeeding next time. Paul Eaton, a retired U.S. Army Major General and a senior advisor to vote vets, spoke with NPR's Mary Louise Kelly earlier this week. Below are the highlights of the conversation. How could a coup play out in 2024? The real question is, does everybody understand who the duly elected president is? If that is not a clear-cut understanding, that can infect the rank and file or at any level of the U.S. military. And we saw it when 124 retired generals and admirals signed a letter contesting the 2020 election. We're concerned about that. And we're interested in seeing mitigating measures applied to make sure that our military is better prepared for a contested election, should that happen in 2024. How worried is he on a scale from 1 to 10? I see it as low probability, high impact. I hesitate to put a number on it, but it's an eventuality that we need to prepare for. In the military, we do a lot of wargaming to ferret out what might happen. You may have heard of the Transition Integrity Project that occurred about 6 months before the last election. We played 4 scenarios, and what we did not play is a U.S. military compromised, not to the degree that the United States is compromised today. As far as 39% of the Republican Party refusing to accept President Biden as president, but a compromise nonetheless. So we advocate that the particular scenario needs to be addressed in a future war game held well in advance of 2024. Can the current Pentagon leadership handle it? I'm a huge fan of Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, a huge fan of the team that he has put together and the uniformed military under General Milley. They're just superb, and I am confident that the best men and women in the U.S. and in our military will be outstanding. I just don't want the doubt that has compromised or infected the greater population of the United States to infect our military. What should the military do? I had a conversation with somebody about my age, and we were talking about civics lessons, liberal arts education, and the development of the philosophical underpinnings of the United States Constitution. And I believe that it bears a reteach to make sure that each and every 18-year-old American truly understands the Constitution of the United States, how we got there, how we developed it, and what our forefathers wanted us to understand years down the road. That's an important bit of education that I think that we need to readdress. I believe that we need to wargame the possibility of a problem and what we are going to do. The fact that we are caught completely unprepared, militarily and from a policing function on January 6th is incomprehensible to me. Civilian control of the military is sacrosanct in the US, and that is a position we need to reinforce. Our civics lessons weak tea to stave off an insurrection. A component of that, unsaid, is that we all know each other very well. And if there is any doubt in the loyalty and the willingness to follow the oath of the United States, the support and defend parts of the United States Constitution, then those folks need to be identified and addressed in some capacity. When you talk to a squad leader, a staff sergeant, a 9-man rifle squad, he knows his men and women very, very well. The reality that I get from this, and this gentleman actually says it out loud, is people have no fucking idea how their political system actually works. They don't know what it's for. They don't know what it does. Right? Like, real simple. If you're close, comrades, please join John for us live protest and organize. Yep. I think we're not going to be doing a protest through the winter, of course. The winter is the planning months, but... And then when the homeless do tent up, you don't have a permit to build shelter. Yeah, exactly. It's so fucking bullshit. Way to criminalize poverty. Again, exactly, but for sure. Like, and now it's, but now it's getting, like, embarrassing, right? Now it's getting embarrassing. Like, now we have the hard evidence. It's not speculative. We have the hard evidence that shows we are spending more to keep people homeless than it would be to simply resolve their homelessness. Like, that's the deep shame of what's going on here in North America. That shelters cost money, emergency police services cost money, paying cops to go beat people up costs money, courts cost money, food banks cost money. All of this stuff costs money. And when you actually do the work and you find out how much money you're spending, you realize, oh, it actually would be cheaper to just give these people money so that they could go pay rent and get food. It is actually cheaper. And this is what turns me towards saying that conservatives and liberals have gone psychotic. Because the whole narrative of, like, we want government to be efficient. We want government to do things so that it's not expensive. We care about the bottom line. We want things to be streamlined so that I don't have to pay so much in taxes and I can keep my taxes low. All that goes out the window when it comes to the poverty conversation. We happily pay way more. It's not like small percentages. We happily spend way more to make sure that there are homeless people who we then abuse with police officers instead of simply resolving the problem from the source and paying less. We want it to be that way. We are happy to do it. Like, our culture has gone psychotic. We are a psychopath nation. No pulling punches on it. Like, we've gone psychotic. Like, and anybody who had a rational, empathetic, compassionate thought in their head would go, well, yeah, like, spend less money, solve the problem. What's the holdup here? But if you actually talk that way, your conservative and liberal types start talking about who earns stuff. As if anybody earns anything. Like, how much input did you have on even being here? Did anybody ask to be here? Like, hands up, who asked to be here? Oh, is it fucking nobody? Is this just like a randomly generating system that just spits people into circumstances and then they have to fucking deal with it? Right? Like, what's so embarrassing about these individualists pretending that the individualism is the individual individualizing, right? Is that even like a cursory statement, like fundamentally what they are saying is your individual effort and energy is stronger than the individual effort and energy of everyone else who is currently existing on the planet and everyone who existed before you even got here. That's the reason individualists are incoherent. Because they are fundamentally saying, I'll restate this because it's central to understand how incoherent these people are. Your individual effort and energy is the equivalent or greater than the individual energy of everybody else that's alive today and everybody else that came before you. It's completely incoherent. And the only person who could believe such a thing is a person who is experiencing what's become known as white privilege. A person who has experienced no barriers in their life, who has never come up against any conflict whatsoever. Right? And I am talking about your Petersons and your Shapiros, like people who have never experienced conflict in their life, who literally were just handed what they've got. And like, yeah, they put in the effort, and yeah, they did that, but like, there wasn't anybody who was antagonizing them while they were doing it. Right? And because they refuse to acknowledge the existence of white privilege, they can espouse these incoherent nonsense phrases like, yeah, my energy is more powerful than all of the energy of all of humanity and all of the humans who came before us. Like, it's shockingly incoherent. And millions of people listen to these guys and take them seriously. Like, there's a reason we're failing. There's a reason we're failing. Any climate predictions for 22? My prediction is Southwest Ontario will get hammered with floods, more intense fires in BC in the summer. Yeah, those are pretty safe predictions, honestly. Like, we now have wildfire seasons. Like, that's how it is. I can't believe how toxic Trump is. One man, rich or not, he convinced half of America their election up till then was a fraud. Well, it wasn't one person. Like, that's just it. Like, it's an institution. Like, and again, like, it ties in, right? Like, the South will rise again. Okay? We act as though the Civil War happened and it was like a dust up and then that's the end of that story. Like, no. The South will rise again. That's a country within the borders of the United States that wants to assert itself. And it is asserting itself through the figure of Donald Trump currently, but through the Republican Party generally. And like, Donald Trump is not just one person like leading the charge here. And that, I think that's an important thing to remember when it comes to politics. Like, one of the big shifts in how a person views politics, right, is that like people tend to view the leaders as being like these somewhat in like here's a statement I get all the time. And when I was younger I said all the time, right? Don't these people see how destructive he is? Like, don't they see how destructive he is? And as I got older and did more like research and had to accept some realities, they do. They do. They see it. They just don't care. Or they see it as a positive. Right? Like that's just the reality of it. Like, the people who are voting for Doug Ford are fine that he abandons the poor. They're fine with that. And many of them agree with that and think that the poor should be abandoned and should be destroyed. And it's the same thing with Trump. Like, they support him. They want him to do that. They see what he is like. Should Donald Trump actually enact a coup of the United States, right? The South would say, would consider that a punch back from the Civil War. Like, the Civil War isn't over in the United States, right? The North, Lincoln and the North defeated the Southerners. Well, the South will rise again. Here it is. Don't they see that by fomenting a coup, it'll destroy America? It'll destroy Lincoln's America. It'll destroy the Northerners' America. But the South will rise again. Like, they want that. It's not just one man. It's not just Donald Trump. It's an entire group of people who want revenge from the Civil War. For God's sakes, these guys are walking around with Confederate flags. Like, it's like right in front of us. It's just our media refuses to actually report on this in a way that I would call even remotely accurate, because we're supposed to forget what happened yesterday. Forget about like the Civil War. Like, oh, the Civil War, that was like forever ago. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Your grandpa fought in the Civil War. The workers order the supplies, make the products, package the product, drive the product from point A to point B, deal with the consumers. Capitalists sit on their arse all day. Yeah. But I provided the capital, so I'm the same. Peterson made the argument the other day that women should be in the, I assume that was kitchen, and be baby maker if their defined role and be in the marketplace has done terrible thing to them. Yeah. Like, no, Peterson is like a hard right conservative. The one thing that I find interesting is that the conservative movement debates back to Edmund Burke, where he coined the term that it is better to keep the devil you know than the devil you don't know. Then when you look more about the American history in the South were loyal to Britain, continued to uphold conservative motive, it was also them who started things like the KKK movement and other racist policies, even if the reason that they don't have universal health care. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation around that the reason why America refuses to actually push forward with a universal health care system is because they can't find a way to keep it from black people. Like, it's like the ultimate cut off your nose to spite your face, right? Donald Trump was an average president. He was a racist. He was a white supremacist. He used illegitimate means to try and win an election. Yeah, this is common behavior. Yeah. Yeah. It is different insofar as, like, Trump is overtly flagrant about it. Like, I think the thing that really separates Trump from his contemporaries is that he has no statesman quality about him. He is in no way a statesman, right? And what does that mean? Well, it means that when you're in public, right, and when you're talking to people, you know, you have that kind of like Obama-esque kind of air about you, or Reagan-esque if you prefer, right? Where we here are Americans and we're the greatest country on the face of the planet, and we're gonna make sure that the future is bright and forward we go together as Americans, right? Donald Trump is none of that. He's none of that. He's way closer to like an antagonist from a WWE show. Right? Like, and unlike other presidents, like, Donald Trump riffs. He riffs. He just shoots from the hip. He doesn't, he prepares speeches, but he's willing to go off script all the time. Right? Like, go listen to him on these rallies. Like, a lot of that's not, like, prepared shit. Like, a lot of that is, like, you know, I'm so happy we got the vaccine in, and the vaccine was the greatest vaccine. You know, it's good for the people, good for the people. Yeah, good for the people, good for the people. Well, he's just fucking riffing. They wanted to kill off the black population, which of course was the South who created the Democratic Party, and then there was the party swap, yeah. Well, and the decimation of the Whigs as well fits in there too. Like, America used to have different parties. Like, it used to be the Republicans and the Whigs, and the Whigs were destroyed because they were monarchists, and nobody supported that anymore. And so so from there arose the Democrats. Tom Hartman actually proved that it was actual policies and quoted numerous sources that demonstrated the South wanted to deny healthcare. Yeah, of course. No, I mean, a people who are so dark to still support the idea that that black people are inferior and should be enslaved. Like, there's no depth to the depravity, right? There's no depth. All right. What did I do here? Oh, this is the Washington Post. Okay. Doink, 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 doink. I didn't even do today's number. Let's do it. Today's number. Let's go. I'm going to say 6. Some people said some numbers earlier.
Here we go for today's number. It's December 31.
Here we go.
2021.
2021.
10 balls.
10 balls.
Each ball has a number.
5 from Eziel. Good to see you, bud.
Numbers 1 through 10.
Eziel, you're like the true lurker, eh?
Whirl the numbers.
Whirl the numbers. Always a 7 from you, Mocked. I know. So we got 5, 6,
Pick
7.
a number.
Here we go. Get ready. Get ready.
Today's number is 6.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Happy New Year to John. Happy New Year to John. I gotta tell you, I actually feel, I really do feel, I shouldn't say this shit out loud because this is when the universe says, oh really, John? But you know what? I'm gonna say it anyway, and I'm gonna hope that the universe is gonna look at me and be like, okay, good. I feel pretty positive going into this year. Like, don't get me wrong. Shit's gonna go sideways. For sure. But for me personally, I feel like the channel is growing. I'm about to cross some interesting thresholds. Things are gonna get interesting on the channel itself. And so that'll be exciting, one way or the other. And then also I feel like there are other pursuits that I'm taking that I feel like are starting to kind of manifest into interesting ways, and that like I just feel a positive energy around me, and a lot of that actually has to do with you guys, and just like a constant positive reinforcement and a constant just like keep doing what I'm doing and everything's gonna work out, you know. We'll see. But I feel like 2022 is going to be like a crazy year, but I feel like there's a real opportunity for me to actually do something more meaningful with my life. Like, really. Like, before this pandemic started, I was working in a toy store. And I was kind of resigned to it, honestly. I was kind of resigned to this idea that, okay, like, it's corporate capitalism. That's what's won the day. Like, it doesn't seem like anybody actually cares about fighting back against this. And then the pandemic hit. I get laid off because of it. And I start doing this. And I start doing other stuff. And it seems to be kind of shaping up and kind of working out. So, like, yeah. And I find this to be far more meaningful. Like, don't get me wrong, the toy store had its moments. But at the end of the day, you're just, like, selling junk to children. Yeah. I find this to be a much more meaningful thing to do. And I hope that it manifests into serious ways and serious things start to happen because of it. Thanks for being here, guys. Good opportunity to just say like, share, subscribe. Do think about donating $1 if you've got it jangling around your pocket. if only to make me feel good about myself. Anytime anybody donates any money, it makes me feel good about myself, I gotta tell you. And a big shout out, big thank you to all the Patreons out there. If you are a Patreon of mine, thank you so much. Thanks for participating. Thanks for supporting me in this madcap adventure of ridiculous nonsense. What a ridiculous place we are. So, the Ukrainian regime shuts down 5 opposition TV channels. First Independent UKR Live TV, Novosti 112 Ukraine, News 1, and sanctioned Zik TV. The Ukrainian Maidan regime has shut down 5 more opposition TV stations. According to ASB News, these channels are First Independent, and I just listed them. Canada has supported the regime with more than $241 million in aid in Operation Unifier since they came into power in 2014, because of a coup that we participated in. Like, Operation Unifier is the opposite of unification. Like, it's a coup. Like, it's a coup regime that was unelected, completely supported by NATO, and we're supposed to act like Russia is the offender in this. Like, that's what's so embarrassing about it. Like, so we participated in a coup of a democratically elected government in Ukraine, are funneling weapons and arms to neo-Nazi groups within Ukraine, but it's the Russians that we should be concerned about. Is that right? Is that the narrative? Like, okay. Remember when the premier promised that no one was going to lose their housing because of the pandemic? Remember when he said if you don't have enough cash for both rent and food that you should buy food? That he would keep everyone housed? This is what his promises are worth. From the Toronto Star, she lost her job in the pandemic and wound up living in a tent. A dispute with his landlord turned into nights on TTC streetcars. More than 7,400 people turned up at Toronto's shelters for the very first time this year. These are their stories. Like, the word is abandonment. The word is abandonment. Like, it's every man for themselves at this stage in the game. And that's even starting to get reported in publications like the Globe and Mail. We're in the you're on your own stage of the pandemic. Like, we're not... And more or less we seem fine with it. Just like, oh yeah, okay. Get fucked, citizens. Keep voting for people who literally just rob you. Ukraine is a neo-Nazi hellscape. Putin should stop at Kiev instead of Donetsk. I mean, Putin's in a tough position, right? Because any incursion into Ukrainian territory is going to be used as an excuse. Like, completely. As an excuse to invade, to destroy anything. Like, if Putin set one foot into Ukraine, they would immediately start destroying the Belt and Road connection between Moscow and Belarus and Minsk. That's what this is all about, right? The connection between Minsk, like, if you guys don't know, because I do have new people in the chat, if you're still around, Bet, here's an important thing that you've got to know about. If you don't know about this, you are kind of out of the loop in terms of global geopolitics and all this. This here's the Belt and Road Initiative. This is an initiative that comes out of China so that they can essentially create a new Silk Road, right? It is a major trade infrastructure. Rail that can go up, in some cases, can go up to as fast as 600 kilometers per hour. Designed to get goods from the heart of China, the heart of China's manufacturing base, into Europe, and eventually they are going to find a way to get it into Africa as well. One of the major goals of the Belt and Road Initiative is to sidestep shipping lanes, which is a major way that the United States is trying to interfere with Chinese trade. The Americans made the Rand Corporation created a document called Thinking Through the Unthinkable. thinking through war with China, where they explicitly stated that their goal would be to destroy 30% of China's trade in the South China Sea by destroying their vessels, by destroying ships. And this, of course, continues to encourage the Chinese to find more land-based routes to get out of the oceans, because the Americans can't be as effective with these land-based routes. And a big concern for the Americans is that Europe is beginning to trade more with the Chinese than they are with the Americans. The holdouts are Germany and Italy. I just pointed to France when I said that. Germany and Italy. That those two are still trading more with America than they are with China. But every year it's getting closer and closer. And the concern from the Americans is that the Europeans will swing towards the Chinese. Should the Americans elect a Republican president, the Europeans will likely turn towards China because they know what's happening. How do they know what's happening? Because they experienced it. Like, Germany elected Hitler. Like, Mussolini rose to power in Italy. They know what fascism looks like. They know what fascists are. They're looking across the way, and they're seeing Donald Trump and all that, and they're going, yeah, we're not going to hitch our wagon to that star. Does the UK trade more with China? The UK does trade more with China. Yeah, which is interesting, right? At least I believe that's the case. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, Ken. I'll gladly step down from that. But I believe the UK does trade more with China. And Happy New Year. Happy Patreon Day tomorrow. Yeah. Payday. But okay, as you can see here, okay, tying this all back into Ukraine, right? So these red lines indicate the rail, right? So as you can see, it's all up into Moscow, right? Everything connects over here into Moscow. The pink lines that you're seeing are lines to be built. And things have changed now with the Americans leaving Afghanistan, right? That they are already building the rail into Afghanistan. That's already happening. So let's focus on Ukraine. So currently, like, this pink line doesn't exist, right? They're building it currently. And so all of the trade that is going into Europe from China is either by the sea, which the Americans can interfere with, or it's through Moscow into Minsk. This is literally the only rail that brings it into Europe, right? And so the Americans want to disrupt this. Absolutely, they want to disrupt this. And so what are they doing, right? They can't disrupt it at Warsaw, right? They can't fuck around with Berlin, right? They want to go after Minsk. This connection right here. Or go from Minsk to Warsaw, honestly. They want to destroy this infrastructure. That's their whole plan. How are they doing it? Right? Because they can't destroy the infrastructure in Germany or any of this, because that will really alienate their allies. So what did they do? Well, they went to Ukraine, Ukraine is technically like an independent, right? This is why you can't be an independent in this world politics. Ukraine stands as a testament. You have to join a federated body. You must do it. If you do not, you will share Ukraine's fate. Ukraine was an independent nation that was actually trading more with America already, right? But politically, they elected people who were actually fairly pro-Russia. Not pro-Russia, but like not anti-Russia. And so they weren't going to use their military to antagonize the Belt and Road Initiative. And so they fomented a coup, overthrew that leadership, installed their own leaders, and are now actively creating terrorist cells and funding terrorist cells within Ukraine to pursue ultimately their goal to destroy this infrastructure between Moscow and Minsk. Because destroying this means that all of these European nations are more beholden to America. That's what it's all about. Is it disgusting? Yeah. Welcome to America, baby. That's the reason why you hear in the news, right? Oh, Lukashenko, he kidnapped a Ukrainian journalist. Oh, we've got to censor him. We've got to sanction Minsk. We got to go after Lukashenko. And then when you dig into that, you realize that like the guy that he got was a literal neo-Nazi, wasn't a journalist at all, was like an embedded terrorist cell being supported by the CIA. It's like, yeah, you should get those guys. Like, really, for real. And they're doing everything they can. They're focusing every angle because ultimately they want this done. If they could invade Belarus and just take Lukashenko out, they would. But they can't do that. That's a bridge too far. They wouldn't even have support from the EU to do that. Right? And certainly Moscow and China would have something to say about that. But you know what they can do? They can take over an independent state that doesn't have ties in either direction and then create terrorist cells within that state and then send those terrorist cells into neighboring nations in order to destroy critical infrastructure. And if they can also antagonize nations to invade Ukraine, like if they can antagonize Russia enough so that Russia finally says fuck this and sends troops in, then they can really ramp it up. Now, then we're talking about literal, like we can send planes and actually drop bombs on this infrastructure, which is why Moscow will never do it. Putin will never invade Ukraine because he's not a moron. Like he everything I just told you, you can go listen to Putin say. Like he understands what's happening. Like you'll never hear that in Western media because they don't want you to understand what's going on. But that's what's going on. And like you can listen to Lukashenko. He'll tell you this straight to your fucking face, as clear as I just did. Like what is happening in Ukraine is all about China. It's all about China. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. Which, again, is why they, like, trump up the Uyghur genocide narrative, which is why they're constantly banging the drum about Hong Kong, which is why they're talking about Taiwan, right? Which is why they're doing all this shit, which Taiwan's not even on this map, which is hilarious. But, like, all of these angles, right? All of these things that they are doing all over the globe exist in order to go after China to attempt to maintain their supremacy. And none of it's going to work. And a big failing that the Americans don't seem to realize at all is that even if they're successful, even if they successfully launch a campaign and do enough damage so that trade ends here, well, the reality is that China can build faster than America can bomb. That's just the truth. And that means the game's over. That as America builds bombs and sends them over and bombs China, China can build back faster. Because they're organized and they're more productive and they know how to do it. Like, it pays to remember every single time communists and capitalists have actually fought in warfare, the communists have won handily. Like, but at what cost? Yeah, at the cost that the capitalists were willing to extract. But they won. The Soviet Union defeated the Nazis. The Vietnamese defeated the Americans. Like, the Cambodians defeated the Americans. The Afghani people defeated the Americans. Like, I mean, not to say that the Afghani people were actually communists, but there were communists, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. The capitalist modes of production are weak. That they can't compete against communist modes of production. They simply can't. Like, proof's in the pudding. Anytime communists and capitalists actually fight a war, the communists have won. Every single time, no exception. Like, what do you need? And while I'm talking about the Belt and Road Initiative, I do like to talk about this. This is exciting. So because the Americans have left Afghanistan, I've already said this, but they're building a rail through the Wakhan corridor here, right? That's going to connect directly into Kabul. And then that's going to connect into Mashhad, right? So you see how much effort they're putting in to avoid Afghanistan because of the conflict that was ongoing, right? Well, now they're building it right into here, right? That'll connect up here. You got from Tehran to Ankara is the new plan, right? Because Turkey is actually being fairly accommodating, because Turkey understands what's going on. Like, Turkey understands what's going on. But the connection into Baghdad, right? So let's look at the world map proper here, because this is real fun, dude. This is real fun. The Chinese know that eventually the Americans withdraw from Iraq for the same reason that they withdrew from Afghanistan, because it's a quagmire that they don't have control over, and it's a money sink, and it's costing them lots of resources, and they're not getting anything out of it, right? So when the Americans pull out of Iraq, which is an inevitability, they're going to build a rail from Tehran to Baghdad. Now, the goal here is to get a rail into Africa, right? There's a problem. Israel, which is an American state, has cut off. You can see, right? Here are the borders of Israel. You can't get through there, right? And Israel will never let this rail through, ever. The full force of the American military will come to bear if the Chinese just try to push through this territory, right? So what are the Chinese to do? Sure, they can get a rail to Baghdad, right? Well, in comes Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia are like the evil geniuses of this region. Like, I am not on their side at all. I think that they're a despicable regime, but their political brilliance cannot be overstated. They are political geniuses. During this entire period of time when war was raging throughout the Middle East, Saudi Arabia came out clean as a whistle. They got tons of funding. They got tons of resources. The ruling class of Saudi Arabia is rich, like hyper rich, untouched by warfare, right? Came out clean as a whistle. Now the Americans are withdrawing from the region, and Saudi Arabia knows it. They're not dumb. Saudi Arabia actually plans stuff, unlike the Americans, right? Saudi Arabia actually makes plans. And so they have obviously looked at the world map and gone, okay, who's the big superpower? Oh, it's China. They've obviously done this. Oh, it's China. And you know what China's doing? China's building a high-speed rail to connect everybody together. You know what we, Saudi Arabia, would really love to be part of? That. So what Saudi Arabia is doing, everything I'm about to say now, incidentally, is a touch speculative, okay? Like, there's no document, like, I haven't seen anything where the Chinese government is saying, and this is definitely what we are planning to do. But all the pieces make sense. Saudi Arabia is building a new city called Neom. This is real. I can show you the documents for this. Right here. Doink. Right here. Neom means new future. Okay? So it's going to be a high-tech city that they're building here. But it also has a symbolic aspect of new future. Like a shifting away from American power towards Chinese power would be a new future. They're building Neom right here. The goal is obvious. Baghdad, Neom, and then they're going to build not a bridge, but a tunnel beneath the Gulf of Aqaba, right under here, to connect to the Suez Canal, into Cairo, into Africa. It's an enormous project that is going to actually propel the global south into a better and brighter future for itself as America isolates itself and becomes a shithole country that nobody wants to trade with or have anything to do with. Why would you? Pipelines are evil as per climate change dogma, yeah. Vietnam, Korea, China, Soviet Union, Cambodians, Afghani, Cuba, Angola, Bolivia, yeah. Is there a war America has ever won? Like, they like to pretend like they're the reason that World War II was won, but, like, they couldn't have been more opportunistic. Like, literally the invasion happens here because they know the Soviets are coming, and they know if they let the Soviets just take Europe, then Europe is going to become part of the Soviet Union, so they've got to send troops. Like, that's the reason that shit all happens. Syria, Venezuela, Nicaragua, yeah. Re-pipelines. A sugar cookie is evil when it's shoved in someone's mouth without their permission. Where the pipelines go matters. I mean, we are at a point now where if we keep burning carbon, like if we keep burning fossil fuels, if we keep emitting carbon the way that we are dead. Like, we are fucked. Like, in enormous ways. Like, we simply cannot afford to play this game of, like, good pipeline, bad pipeline. Like, we simply can't afford it. Like, we have to stop doing what we're doing. You're going to hear me say this a lot on this channel. It's not about creating a new technology. It's not about renewable energy. It's not about any of that. It's about stopping a lot of this bullshit. We are producing a lot of waste. A lot of waste. A lot of waste. Like, LOL dolls. Just trash. Like, walk into any establishment in this capitalist market, and you will see reams and reams and reams and reams of total trash. Garbage. We have to stop. What we are experiencing is a hysteria. We are caught in a mass hysteria of just wasteful consumption. And if we don't simply stop, we are going to destroy this place. It is as simple as that. It is 1 + 1 = 2. It is look up at the comet that is coming. It is that straightforward. We have to stop polluting. And if that means that Jeb has to actually not have like a truck that's as big as a World War II tank, if that means that little Susie doesn't get her LOL dolls, if that means that your stupid little items that you order from Amazon take twice as long to come and aren't covered in plastic, so be it. Like, we are walking around like children in this place, pretending like we can just do anything we want and there's zero consequences. We're like kids that walk into a retail establishment and just pull everything off the shelves and throw it into the aisles. Like, how long do you think your kid could do that before you got banned from that store? And what do you think is going to happen when Mother Nature bans us from the earth? Do you think it's going to be good for us? Do you think it's going to be nice? Probably fucking not. Like, probably fucking not. We are a childish people. We're probably... I peg us at about 5. I think we're about 5. And like, our great thinkers, people like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, the people who are supposed to be like the great intellectual on the right, they're 5-year-olds. They're literally like debating whether or not girls have cooties or not. Like, that's essentially where they're at intellectually. Ooh, girls have cooties. Like, basically we're there. And like, our culture is like a drug addicted junkie. We're like a drug addicted 5-year-old who just can't put the needle down. Right? And we will commit suicide. It will be a suicide. And everybody will see it that way. Like, should there be humans that survive this disaster, there is no way they will discuss it any other way than this was a self-inflicted suicidal culture. Like, we will be studied for eons. How did a culture commit suicide this way? We are psychopathic. We are suicidal. We need to put the drugs down. We need to stop doing this. It's very straightforward. Stop. And what's even more embarrassing than any of that, it's not even like the general public that needs to stop. Every single time Jeff Bezos shoots a rocket into space, it produces the same amount of pollution as 1 billion people's entire lives. So we're not even telling the general public. Well, sorry, we are telling the general public. Well, it's about your individual consumption. That's what really matters. Yeah, it's your individual consumption, which is total garbage. Every time Jeff Bezos shoots a rocket at space, it's 1 billion people's entire lives worth of pollution. For one launch, one time. Stop. Stop. Like, we need to go and sit in the corner for about 5 years. Like, stop. Keep producing food, right? Keep producing the things that are necessary for life to actually be sustained, right? At that base subsistence level. Everything else has to stop. These fucking NFTs. Bitcoin produces the same amount of pollution as the country of Ireland. Ethereum, which is the beating heart of these NFTs, produces the same amount of pollution as the country of Argentina. Shut the fuck up. Like, get the fuck out of here with all of that. It's like digital Pokemon cards for rich cocksuckers to trade slaves with one another on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Stop. End it. Finish this. Like, we are children. We are fucking children. It's time to grow up. It's time to believe that air, water, land matters more than literal digital Pokemon cards. And fucking trucks that are as big as battle tanks. And Jeff Bezos shooting a rocket at space. Like, but the reality is like, we're ruled by fucking, either we're ruled by like demented psychopaths like Donald Trump, or we're ruled by demented psychopaths like Joe Biden. Like, the catastrophe that is coming for America and for the species cannot be overstated. It is a catastrophe. And why? Literally so 5-year-olds can go, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. We're children. We're fucking children. And incidentally, we're children who don't even care about our own children. Like, we don't give a shit at all about our own children. We don't care one iota. The people who are having children and bringing them into this world are doing it as vanity projects for themselves. They do not give a fuck about those children. When those children suffer and die, they won't care at all. How do I know? Liberal! That's how I know. Yeah, not to mention NFT are also the biggest scams. Yeah, they are. Problems, and when he was confronted about systemic issues, he just returned to the speaker and said it's your personal responsibility, not society. Yeah. No, the personal responsibility stuff is total garbage. Like, it's how you know that these people are just disconnected from reality. Like, they don't live in reality. They live in some world of their own creation. And they refuse to engage with reality. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, the Capitalist Manifesto really convinced me. Like, these guys refuse to engage in reality. Like, you literally can show them 1 + 1 = 2, and they'll start talking about oranges. Right? Like they're just not interested in connecting with the conversation. In many ways, figures like Peterson and Shapiro exist for the deluded populace to just be deluded off in the corner, so that they can just not engage with reality. It's just delusion. The Capitalist Manifesto was a project that was done by the National Post, where they produced a series of absolutely asinine, completely detached articles that didn't even talk about the relationship between labor and capital. Like, it's essentially propaganda that is as delusional as propaganda gets. Like, really, really, really fucking dangerous shit. If you were to believe even one of these articles, you would be the most misinformed, most deluded person on the planet today. No doubt. And yet it's being produced like completely uncritically. Yeah, net zero by 2050 while ramping up emissions. That's my favorite. Literally the same week Justin Trudeau said we're going to be net zero by 2050, he ramped emissions up by 30%. Like, get completely fucked. And you can like just type in what I just typed in, the Capitalist Manifesto, National Post. You can see it, right? It's just delusional nonsense, where they don't even present capitalism accurately. Like, and there is no conversation at all between labor and the owners, right? The existence of the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, like, it just simply doesn't exist within these pages. Like, it's fraudulent what they're doing. Like, and the fact that it's published in the National Post really shows you, like, you can't trust what comes out of the National Post. Like, it's a rag. It's worse than the National Enquirer. Every person I've spoken with is on board with the humanity-caused climate disaster being around the corner, but won't talk about major things they could do not to cause much damage. Well, and bet it's worse than that, man. Like, it's way, way worse. Like, we don't need to do major things. Like, this is where it gets really embarrassing. This is where the conversation gets really childish. Like, we are not actually talking about doing major things. We are literally talking about maybe don't shoot rockets at space for a bit. Maybe crazy thought. Just hear me out, okay? Maybe stop producing garbage that we throw away immediately. Maybe just hear me out, okay? Just crazy thought. Maybe we shouldn't allow single individuals to drive around in trucks that are as big as World War II tanks. Like, no, this isn't the good one. There's an even better one. Like, trucks are as big, if not bigger, than World War II tanks. Like, that's childish. There you go. Here it is. Here's the American M4 Sherman, Ford F-150. Here's the German Panzer, Chevrolet Silverado, Chevrolet Suburban, British Cromwell, the Soviet T-3485, Dodge Ram. We are children. Like, we are children. And when climate change rears its head and starts to demolish this place, and our kids start asking us, why did you let this happen? The answer will be, LOL, get fucked, kid. We didn't care about you in the first place. Because we don't, obviously. Like, it's obvious, isn't it? Like, we don't give a shit about our children. We don't care at all. We're a psychopath nation that has disconnected from reality. Obviously. You don't need to look around too hard to see it. Like, and it's not going to take major things to change this. It's literally just like stop shooting rockets at space. Maybe not with the trucks that are as big as fucking World War II tanks. Like, if you ask me, it takes far more energy to pollute this much. It takes far more effort to pollute this much than it would be to just stop. Just stop. Just don't do it. Quit it. Like, literally stop doing it. Like, and yet we can't. We are caught in a mass hysteria that is like a drug-induced psychosis. And the hysteria is all about how do we get bigger superpowers. Well, you don't. It's time to calm the fuck down. It's time to grow up, be a fucking adult, give a shit maybe about your kids, which you don't right now. Like, you don't. If you're checking conservative or liberal, you are saying fuck my kids. You are. Like, get fucked, kids. And I don't have any tolerance for that at all. Like, I'm out of patience for that. Like, why'd you have them? Just to fuel your own narcissistic desire to have them, I guess. Like, they're like a trophy to these people. Liberal, get fucked, kids. That's what's happening. The NP capitalism piece is to brainwash the gullible populace, and people buy into this garbage. Yeah, they're called conservative voters. Pickup trucks should be banned, full stop. I mean, like, when I was younger, I was driving around like a Toyota half-ton, and it was like a little thing. Like, it was like a little, and it was good enough for anything. Like, you don't need these things. These things are gross. No one needs a Dodge Ram. You just don't. Most National Post readers are out of touch with reality. I try to engage in meaningful debate and comments, but only get ill-informed responses. Yeah. Because that's where they go to fuel that kind of delusional narcissism, right? Capital desire for profit undermines everything, yeah. Comrade Trump will be the vanguard of the revolution. Oy vey. Maybe remind me of that, Mocked. We're at the end here. Yep, another great chat. Going to bed. See y'all next year. Yeah, see y'all next year. Isn't that fun? I gotta go do capitalism tomorrow. Not looking forward to that, but gotta pay those bills. Speaking of paying the bills, maybe think about my Patreon down below. Gets you into my Discord. Gets you if you donate at the $5 level, I'll give you my music that I have recorded so far. I'm gonna be recording more in the new year. And if you donate at the $10 level, I've got like a movie script that I've written that I'll send your way. And any kind of creative stuff that I pursue. And I don't know. We got to support leftist voices. We We are in a ridiculous period of time. This is fucking ridiculous what we're doing. And stupid. Like, it's not like there's nothing glorious about it. It's just fucking stupid. With that, always remember, guys, you are literally a quantum being sustained and living in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to make sure you never put it together. Because if you do, you might start believing you're just as valid as they are. And if you think that way, they can't enslave you so easily. Fuck them. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.